All right, we are good. Welcome everybody to the How to Portfolio class. This is a collaboration between the Indie Game Academy and Remote Game Jobs. So excited to be here and so excited to start building a relationship with all of y'all. We've been in this classroom before, if you remember, or in this Discord before, if you remember, quite some time ago running those introductory Unity classes. But we hope to be here a little bit more often. This class is an introduction to basically our top tips for how to form your portfolio, and then the steps that we recommend you take to get everything you need to put a good portfolio together. So this is not actually a technical class, meaning I'm not going to show you how to use Wix or HTML for how to actually literally build a portfolio. Instead, we're going to get you everything you need and all of the insights you need to build a portfolio. So let me share my screen here for everybody. I don't think we need sound. Okay, fantastic. And all of y'all. All right. Is everybody seeing a presentation? Yes? Two thumbs. We've got a bunch of really great questions to start out with. Okay, so what we'll do for the questions, now that we're all ready to get started, we'll have a chance to do questions a little bit as we go. And especially towards the end. Okay, I've got a thumbs up for seeing the screen. So let me get started on the presentation. There's a couple different sections that we're actually going to go through here tonight. To give you an introduction to who we are, we're the Indie Game Academy. Some of you may well know us already. We help turn students into game developers and then game developers into indie studio founders. I personally really want to see more people working for themselves, down with the machine and all that, right? We empower game creatives ultimately to pave their own path, though. So if you do want to work for some of those big wigs, fantastic. AAA studios and other studios are a great place to start and get experience. And then eventually we'd love to see you start your own studio, but that of course is up to you. We do this with a 3-level system. We're not doing any of those levels here tonight. We're just talking about portfolios. We have 3 things that we do differently to other people. We focus on multidisciplinary teamwork, we focus on project-based learning, and we gamify everything we do. We have a good time. So we're going to try to have fun here tonight as much as possible. And like I said, our mission is to empower more game developers to create their own income via video games. So tonight we're going to talk about portfolios. Such a good topic, something that we all wonder about, I know. So the first thing I'm going to say about portfolios to all of you is just actually here, guess, right in the chat for me, yes or no. Are portfolios required? Yes, 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 good. I don't need to do the first lesson then. Yes, absolutely. There are people who apply without portfolios. Yes, those people are wrong. It is technically optional to submit a portfolio, but especially at this day and age with how the game industry currently is, portfolios are essentially a requirement. If you don't have one, it's time to build one. Part of what I'm going to talk about here tonight is actually why we're in the state that we're in as a game industry, because I know, it's sort of an elephant in the room. We're all frustrated with the application process right now. So I'm going to give you a little perspective on why that is and how it's going to change. We are going to give you some of our tips for actually breaking into the game industry. These are things that we've learned from working with all the students we have. We're going to talk about niching yourself. It's one of the valuable things you can do for yourself when building out your portfolio. We're going to do some actual live portfolio reviews of a couple of professional ones to give you perspective in what looks good, and then actually of yours from the comments. I'm going to try to go through a bunch of them as fast as possible so that everybody gets at least a little bit of help on your personal portfolio. And then finally, you're going to make your own plan for getting yourself the content you need to build out that portfolio. So your main deliverable for tonight, the main sort of takeaway for tonight, is that you're going to plan, you're going to have a portfolio plan is what we're calling it, for building out your portfolio in the next 2 months, everything you need to make that portfolio in the next 2 months. Now, I kind of already did this while I was waiting for everything to load, but this is me. I've worked on games. Great. Let us continue. These are some of the games that I worked on. Down here in the bottom left is my break-in story, I guess. This is the first game I ever got paid for. It is a Flash game, rest in peace Flash, called Quick Draw Rangers that addictinggames.com bought from me for a whole $500 I made when I was 15. You can see how beautiful I was at visual art at that time. All right, we have 3 core agreements. F for Flash. Yes, F for Flash in the chat, everybody. Rest in peace, Flash. We'll miss you. All right, core agreements. Anytime we run an event, we have 3 core agreements that we request from our audience. And there are specific reasons why we request these things. So please, before we begin, please agree to these 3 simple rules while in this room. Number 1, let's enjoy ourselves. Let's keep this space fun. One of our core pillars is gamifying what we do, making game development enjoyable. We're game developers. Why wouldn't we have fun? But also, it is a great way to keep the class engaging and help those lessons sink in. So as much as possible, let's have fun here tonight. I want everybody to leave in the comments your favorite silly emoji, your favorite goofy emoji right now. Our core agreement number 2 is to celebrate. Nice. Oh yeah, I'm loving all the silly emojis. Amazing. Your core agreement number 2 is to celebrate. There's another very specific reason that we do this. You tend to remember those things. If you didn't already know this, scientifically proven, you tend to remember those things that have high emotional impact on you. So by increasing the celebration, we are increasing the emotional impact. We are increasing the likelihood of you remembering the stuff that I'm going to teach you here tonight. So IGA is all about celebration as much as possible. It also just helps sort of create the culture that we want in a community. So let's celebrate right now. Everybody in real life this time, I want you to pump up your arms to the heavens a couple times. Yeah, get your body moving a little bit. Get you excited. Celebrate. Yeah, says Crack Zone. Gnome Tay has made me uncomfortable. But that's okay. All right. And finally, third, let's be kind and patient with each other. Remember that culture is a mirror. If we are good to other people, they'll be good back. If we're jerk faces to other people, they'll be jerk faces back. If everybody in your life is a jerk, maybe it's your fault. So let's be kind to each other and patient with each other as much as possible. Okay, so let's get to the actual introduction. This is something I kind of slapped together because I thought it might be important for people to know. And people have reported that they really appreciate hearing this. So let's talk about why the game industry kind of sucks right now, because it does. I'm not going to pull any punches. Applying in the game industry is really rough right now. There's a couple of stats that we've discovered through research with our community. For instance, it takes generally over 50 applications for a single interview at this time. Amir Satvat, who, if you don't know, is a fantastic resource on LinkedIn. Actually, somebody gets bonus points if you go and grab Amir Satvat's portfolio link right now, or not portfolio link, his profile link from LinkedIn. If you'll drop that in the chat for us so that we can all follow him. Amazing resource. He's also done some of his own research, and he says your odds, yes, follow that person if you aren't already. Thank you, RJ Veer, for leaving that in the chat. You get 20 imaginary points. Congrats. He did some research to discover that you have less than a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting a job that you cold apply for with no referral, meaning you apply with no connections or anything like that. A 1 in 1,000 chance every time you send a application. That doesn't mean don't do it, but that sure does mean it sucks. So let's talk about why it sucks. Yes, I'm going to spend a moment talking about it. So here's the good part, but also kind of the bad part, and that's going to make sense in a moment. As of right now, as of 2021, the video game industry was worth about 180 billion US dollars. Just to give you an immediate pat on the back, the film industry is only worth about 150 or 160 billion, and we're half their age. Suck it, film. It is estimated that we'll reach 250 billion USD by 2025. That estimate is a bit old, so I'm curious if that has actually been amended after this difficult year we've been having. The top market segments for video games are mobile by far, and that's largely because of emerging markets, emerging countries, basically, places that didn't play video games before. They're playing them on mobile first. So about 48% of revenue comes from mobile games. Console is about 28%, and PC is about 23%. For the eagle-eyed among you who noticed that only totals 99, that 1% is from arcade games. Poor arcade, how you have fallen. In 2020, our year-over-year growth as an industry increased by 23%. For anyone who isn't an economist, that's absurd. That is crazy year-over-year growth. That means in 2019, for every 4 people who were playing games, in 2020, an additional person started playing games in 1 year. Generally, the US economy only grows by 3 to 4% every year. And so we outpaced the US economy by about 6 times in 2020. But the bad times started after that. In 2021 and in 2022, we only saw 1.4% and 2.1%. And now we're actually looking at a bit of a decline. So if we had that crazy boon, why does hiring suck right now? Well, it's actually because of that crazy boon, I'm sorry to say. So this is an actual graph of how much money we made as an industry. This is only the US, but it gives you perspective into what happened. And you'll notice that in 2020, like I said, we had crazy growth, more so than any other year we've seen. But you'll also notice that this growth is tapering off. If anybody has ever looked at an economic graph or a life user graph, like the number of users you have in an app, you'll know that anytime you have a big spike, it is followed by a period of decline. And that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. Basically, a bunch of game companies made more money than they'd ever made before in 2020. So they hired people to keep up with that crazy growth. They had bigger teams than they had ever had before. And then everybody went back outside and stopped playing video games. Couldn't have possibly predicted that, could we? And so basically our teams, our expenses as an industry have been higher than we've had in a long time because of all these people we hired up, but our income has now significantly dropped from that 2020 boon, meaning our expenses are higher than our revenue, meaning business executives just start shooting. They start firing and laying off. So we're basically at the tail end of a pretty significant drawback period from that boon that we've had, which is exactly why hiring sucks right now. There's so many people in the job market. It is flushed with potential talent, which means every application gets tons and tons of applicants. So the big question though is, will it recover? And the short answer is yes, of course it will recover, but it's just, when will it recover? This is Justin Williams. He's one of our professors for our level 3 program. He's also a senior recruiter at Blizzard, and he's actually a top voice on LinkedIn. He's another great guy to follow. And he says, I predict we'll be back. We had a chat about this. He says, I predict we'll be back to pre-pandemic hiring levels by the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024. I think that is probably at this time a bit optimistic, but I would say we are safely going to be back to those pre-pandemic hiring levels by mid 2025 or so. I would guess we've got about a year of crappiness left, but during that year, it's going to steadily get better. So it is going to get better, but it does suck a bit. Okay, so let's talk about portfolios and actually breaking in now that we know why it's a bit hard to break in right now. So there are 3 easy tips that we always recommend at IGA. We know them to work. We talk to a lot of smart people and we work with a lot of students. So we know these things work. Here they are. You've probably heard them all before. Number 1, build a portfolio. I wish there was a class of some sort on that. Number 2, network like crazy. If you don't already know this, up to 80% of jobs in the game industry are filled by referral, are filled by somebody who knows somebody. Let's talk about that too in a bit. And then apply aggressively. Apply as hard as you can to as many places as you can. Anyone want to connect, says Seal. Yeah, that's great actually. Let's all share. Here, everybody share your LinkedIn and connect with each other. Here's Willem. Drop some LinkedIn links down there. All right. So this is our recommended path for building out your portfolio. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview now. First things first, make sure you know your tech stack. So those tools that your profession actually uses. If you're a 3D modeler, probably you're using Blender or some other 3D modeling software. If you're an engineer, probably you're using Unity or C# or Visual Studio. If you are a game designer, you're going to be using a little bit of everything as well as like a ton of Excel documents. So whatever your tech stack is for your profession, make sure you already know that. If you don't already know that, that's your place to start. Make sure you are proficient in your technical skills. Once you're proficient, I want you to make 2 to 3 team-based 48-hour games, very small little games. And I say team-based because teamwork is critical to breaking into the industry. Recruiters can and will ask you about it. So work with teams. I know solo development is this sexy, beautiful thing that we all kind of like wish we did, and I get that we don't have to deal with people when we do solo dev, but ultimately if you're going to work for a company, you're going to be working in a team, and so you need to have those skills. So work in a team basically through this whole process. Do 2 to 3 48-hour games. That's already enough to build a portfolio. Just a couple of those game jams, if you're familiar with what that is one of the best ways to do it. And then after you do a couple 48-hour games, I want you to make a couple mid-form games, something that takes you a week to a couple of weeks to make. And then I want you to do some long form games, all of those with the team. And by the time you go through that process for a couple of months, you will have plenty of games to feature on your portfolio, and you will have stepped up your scope commitment. So you're starting with a small game, you're making your mistakes and messing up early, then you're getting to a medium game, you're still making some mistakes, you're learning, you're getting better, getting to a bigger game. Has anybody read the book The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell? Or do you know who Jesse Schell is? Because he has a quote that I love and that I use all the time, and that is a part of our DNA at the Indie Game Academy. Oh, you're reading it now. Nice. It's a great book. It's a bit expensive because now it's kind of a textbook, which is annoying, but it is a great book. It's worth it. And one of the first quotes Jesse Schell uses in that book is, "Your first 10 games are going to suck, so you might as well get them out of the way as fast as you can." So that's sort of our mentality, and the mentality I urge upon all of you. Finished released games are more important than just about anything else on your portfolio. You could have a single finished game, and that's going to be worth more than 1,000 projects you started and never finished. And I know we all have 1,000 projects that we started and never finished. That's normal. I'm not judging you, but the recruiters are going to judge you. So finish your games, y'all, and then get them up on a portfolio. So once you have 3 to 5 is usually what we recommend, nice top tier games, then build your portfolio website, get it reviewed by some people, and then start networking and applying like crazy. So that's generally the process that we recommend. Remember that recruiters can and will play your games. So build games that you're proud of, that you are like top quality, as high quality as you can manage. Find team members who are high quality, work with really smart, good people, and think of them as showcases. A story I've been telling a lot lately, during my last round of interviews, I got through a first round of interviews at Firaxis, the people who made Civilization, and then I got rejected, and I was sad. They were nice enough to tell me why I got rejected, and their answer was simply, "You haven't built enough strategy games." And that makes sense. They build strategy games. I haven't worked on many strategy games, and so they were nervous that I wouldn't be able to do it. So as you build out and choose your game projects, think about those places you want to work, and think about the games you're putting together as almost showcases or demos to prove to them that you know what you're doing for their projects. If you want to work on real-time strategy games, build real-time strategy games. If you want to work on shooters, build shooters. You have to be careful of scope. Immediately somebody says MMOs. I'm amazed by you, Avel. So make sure that you know what you're building is realistically sized for you to actually finish, but that's a great tip for you. This applies to everything. It obviously applies a little bit less to artists. But think about it like if you're building a strategy game, the art style and the way that you use the art is going to be a little bit different than if you were building a shooter game. So even then, it will matter that you have a game that is like the same as their game, the same genre, same type as their game. All right. Quick Excel sheet for all of our links. Nice. Thank you, Blue Jay. That's awesome. All right. I'm loving that everybody's like supporting. This community is fantastic. Okay, so network like crazy. Tip number 2. This one is so real, and to be honest, this is currently how you get a job. Your cold applications probably won't get you a job. Almost certainly won't. 1 in 1,000, or even less than that, will get you a job. So right now, the main way you get a job in games is you meet somebody who can help you. And that I totally understand can be a little frustrating because some of you, live in a city where there's a ton of game developers, but some of you don't. But you can network online to a decent degree, pretty much no matter where you are in the world. So as much as possible, go to events, meet people, strike up conversations. If you hear somebody at the local coffee shop talking about video games, say hi and ask them what they do. As much as possible, anytime you meet somebody cool, I want you to connect with them on LinkedIn. It really is sort of the de facto tool these days. So use it. Build and maintain those relationships. So don't just build them, but also check in on those people you think are really cool. And then be very open about looking for work. I'm going to show you a little tiny demo that is one of those things I didn't realize was novel until I showed it to somebody and they got very excited about it. So here's how you use your LinkedIn network. You're going to build it up over time by going to various events. Here's a great one. This is GameConf Guide, which includes some online ones. Meetup is another great place. Your local IGDA chapter is a great place. If you have a chapter close by, fantastic way for you to find real people. There's a lot of good ways to network. You just have to put yourself in the right place. So I've started over time. I've gone to events. I've started building up my LinkedIn. I've connected with a bunch of people. Now I'm applying for jobs, and this is when you actually use your network. So here's the little tiny hands-on demo. whenever I'm looking for work, if I find a good job, actually, why am I at work within these? This is ridiculous. Remote game jobs. There we go. All right. So we're looking for work. We're looking at these jobs, and something here strikes our eye. Let's say, ooh, a Netflix job. Sure. Or maybe I'm looking for one that'll be a good demo. Let's say Radical Forge is pretty good. So let's say I'm scrolling down, I see Radical Forge, I'm excited by that. I'm gonna grab the company name here, so Radical Forge, and then I'm gonna come over to LinkedIn and I'm gonna search for that company. Now, if you don't find the company, that means it is such a small indie that probably this process will not work for it. So if you can't find the company, probably this process won't work. Move on to the next one. You can still apply, but it's going to be harder to find somebody to connect with. But these people have 3,000 followers. They're some kind of legit company. They exist. I don't know them very well, but they're probably great. Instead of clicking into the company, though, I'm going to click on people. And once I've clicked on people, I'm going to click on connections. And I'm going to put in first and second connections. And what this is going to do is it's going to show me anybody I know who works there. This second tells you whether or not you know them. If it's first, that means you're literally connected to them. You are a LinkedIn connection. If it's second, that means that you know somebody who knows them. So you're going to find a couple people who are at least second connections who look like they might have a good conversation with you. So for instance, the CEO, a person who's dealing with a whole lot of stuff, probably a little too busy to talk with me. So I'm not even going to bother. I might bother if for some reason I think, he might enjoy talking to me. Instead, I'm going to go scrolling down the list until I see somebody who maybe would have a conversation with me. I'm a game designer. Ben Edwards here is a senior game designer. Looks like that dude would connect with me. Now you would think I'm just going to hit connect. And if all else fails, you can do that. And hopefully you can connect with them and reach out. But here's a much better way. I'm going to click on Ben's face. I'm going to go to his profile. And then something that LinkedIn does that is stupid useful is this little guy right here. This tells you everybody you know that knows this person. Are people not seeing this? You have to click into the stream Scrapper if you haven't already clicked into the stream. Is everybody seeing my screen? Okay, good. Yeah, Scrapper, maybe you just didn't click into the stream. Okay, so these are the people I know I am connected with that also know him. Funnily enough, we were just looking at this guy. I've recently formed a good relationship with Tyvik. I'm going to look for people, though, that I know well or who are personal friends of mine. Looks like out of this list, Tyvik is probably my best bet. So I'm not going to message the dude who works there. Instead, I'm going to message the person I know who knows that person. So I'm going to say, hey, Tyvik, I saw that you know Ben from, what was the name of it? Radical Forge. And I've just applied to a position there. I was wondering if you could put me in contact. And I'm going to do this for 3 different people who work at that company. And then I'll send this along. I'm obviously not going to actually send this to Tyvik right now. But that's it. So the reason we do this is because people who work at larger, more established companies get ridiculous numbers of requests every day. Radical Forge is a little bit smaller, so probably Ben isn't too flooded with messages, but still connecting just to Ben means that some random internet stranger is reaching out to him. So Ben's going to be like, eh. But if Ben knows Tyvik, then suddenly somebody that Ben trusts, Tyvik, has reached out to him with somebody else that Tyvik knows and trusts, me, and therefore it feels much more like Ben already knows me. I've had great success with this myself, and I've heard other people using it to great success. So for instance, like I said, right now I work at Paradox Tectonic. This is the GM at Paradox Tectonic, Rod Humble. He worked on Sims 3 and Sims 4. And I did this exact process with him. And I happened to see Lex on this list, who I used to work with at ImView. And then I saw Dawn on this list, and I saw Victor on this list. Victor teaches for us at the Idiom Academy. He currently works at Mojang as an art director. And so I reached out to all 3 of them and I said, hey, could you introduce me to Rod? And I got very lucky this time. All 3 of them said yes, and I got the job. When I got into that interview, Rod actually said, hey, Victor, I love Victor. Victor says hi. So that's how you secure yourself a referral from the internet. You don't even have to be there in person, right? Okay, so I went into a little bit of detail there, but that's because a lot of people have told me that that's been very valuable for them. So hopefully that's a great way for you to get started networking. The last tip is to apply aggressively. So don't wait until you are the perfect candidate. I see so many people who are like, but I don't have this thing. Let them make that decision. Obviously, cold applications are very challenging at this point in time. They don't work very well, but you can increase the number of jobs that you can apply for by not worrying so much and letting the recruiter make the decision if you're the perfect person. Apply frequently and consistently as much as possible. So apply for 10 to 20 jobs a week if you can swing it and if you can find that many jobs to apply for. And then cast a wide net when you apply. So in reality, that I have been telling people lately that is a bit crap, and I'm sorry, but it's worth hearing and considering. If you can get a job that you don't hate, that is outside of the game industry, but that still applies, still builds experience towards what you want to do, it might be a good time to take it. Game industry is definitely struggling a little bit right now. It definitely will recover, but if you can find a kind of interim job that still looks good on your resume, that you don't hate, and that pays, it's going to make you so much less stressed. You can continue to build your skills while you're working there, and you can continue to apply for games jobs while you're working there. And then the minute you have a games job, you can just take off. So that's something to consider. Cast a wide net. Jobs that aren't necessarily games jobs. Also apply for jobs that are a little bit more senior than you probably are ready for. And you can apply, it's up to you, to jobs that are a little bit more junior than you would normally apply for. Now, an alternate perspective on this, funnily enough, we were just looking at Tyvik. This is actually his perspective. He does portfolio reviews. Him and I have become friends semi-recently, and he thinks that you should not apply to just as many jobs as you possibly can. He thinks it should be quality over quantity. I usually recommend quantity over quality. And the reason he thinks that is because of that crazy low hit rate, that 1 in 1,000 that Amir discovered. So what he recommends you do is you go to a Discord, you start to meet people there, you start to build relationships with the developer teams, and you really like ingratiate yourself within a company you want to work for. So if you really want to work at Firaxis, you join their Discord, you make friends with the people who work at Firaxis, and you spend time, a lot of time, getting them to notice you, essentially. And that is a legit perspective. I get why that's a recommendation. It's somewhat unrealistic for you to do that to too many companies. Max you can do that for is like 2 or 3. So perhaps it's worth considering doing that for a small handful that you really are excited about, and then apply aggressively outside of that. Submit tons of applications outside of that. Just wanted to give you that alternate perspective. Okay, make sure every time you apply, you have the holy 3, resume, portfolio, and yes, cover letter. I don't know why people don't submit a cover letter. My recommendation for that is that you write a 3-paragraph cover letter. Your first paragraph is about who you are, and you just have that be exactly the same for every single cover letter you send. The second paragraph is about your relationship with the place you were applying and what you think of that place. That one you do have to write custom. And then your third paragraph is, yes, this is being recorded, and we will indeed drop the slides as well as this recording after it is done. And your third paragraph should be how you are going to contribute to the company and why you're going to kick ass. And that one can also be the same for everybody. So when I write cover letters, they're all 3 paragraphs. The first and third are already written. The second one is custom for every application. So I am writing a custom paragraph for every application, but that's a lot less than a full cover letter. Okay, so those are our top 3 tips for just breaking in, period. So build the portfolio. We're going to talk more about that right now, obviously. Network like crazy and apply aggressively. So let's talk about choosing your vertical or your profession. I am sorry to say this because I similarly feel like I am capable of so many things and I don't like to be told what I should be doing with my life, but it is going to help you to niche yourself. It is going to help you to niche yourself. What kind of jobs could be that a game design to focus on? What kind of jobs could that be? Oh yeah, okay. So I was talking about doing jobs outside of the industry. Game design is very similar to product design. So you can consider some product design companies. So it only helps to niche yourself down. If you say that I am just a UI UX is applicable to so many tech companies, does not have to be games. Niches for UI UX. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, if you are a super generalized person, it is like universally accepted, every single person we've talked to, that that's bad. If you come in and you apply for a level design job, but you are a game designer, not a level designer, you're going to be low on that list. And with 300 or 400 people applying for that job, you're probably not getting it. So your odds are going to be much higher if you're applying for a level design job and you are a level designer. So your resume should not say game designer or engineer or developer, it should say 2D level designer or AI engineer or what are some other ones like backend engineer. Get specific with it. Does anybody in this room, I'm not going to focus on this unless there's a good number of people. These are the 9 verticals. We call them verticals. Most people just call them professions. The 9 sort of major categories of game development. Does everybody know which of these 9 you fall into? Is anybody unsure of which of these 9 they fall into? You can either raise your hand or leave chat. Sure, programming. Does anybody not know? Mix between QA, artist here, art. Okay, it seems like most people do. If you don't know, your next job is to figure out which one is for you. And remember, this doesn't need to be final. I was an engineer long before I was a designer. Now I'm a designer, and I sort of code now and then. It's like a useful tool that I have as opposed to something I have to do for my job. So it doesn't have to be forever. You know, maybe you start in design and you wind up transitioning to product or whatever. But having one of these that is definitively what you are looking for is good. If you are like really hungry to apply for multiple areas, multiple professions, then what I would do is have a separate resume and a separate portfolio for each of these 9 professions. So have an audio portfolio and have a product portfolio and only send the corresponding one for wherever you are applying. So these are the major categories, but we're also going to talk about specializations here. A specialization is a subcategory of that major category. Can I not zoom in? It's not letting me zoom in. Well, that's probably super tiny. I'll give you the link anyway. So Hitmarker is another great resource for anybody who is unfamiliar with it. They do a bunch of stuff, but they write a lot of really great articles about game development and breaking into the game industry. And they have this one. Can I zoom in here? What the hell? Can I zoom in here if I'm not? There we go. And they have this fantastic resource which shows different specializations within these larger categories of game development. So for instance, in game design, yes, I'm a game designer, but ultimately I tend to either be a content designer where I'm making items in interesting stuff that you can experience in the game, or I am typically a systems designer. I'm getting very number oriented, trying to figure out how to balance the game well. So those are my 2 specializations within game design. So you'll notice that game design has a ton of them. There are combat designers, economy designers, interaction, level, monetization designers, etc. And you'll see this in other places too. So animation is broken into 2D and 3D, cinematics, gameplay animators, motion capture, particle animators. Audio is split into a couple here, composition design, programming. Audio programmers are crazy people. Game production, so basically management, gets split into a couple categories here. Somebody mentioned UI UX, which sort of falls, you'll notice that there are UI UX designers, but also UI UX artists. UI UX is one of those ones that like kind of falls under other categories, but also is kind of its own thing. I think of similarly of narrative, writing a narrative. Typically you would consider that part of game design, but ultimately I think those 2 are quite different and they don't really belong inside of game design. But there are many ways that you can break down. UI UX, I think, is about as specialized as you'll get. I'm going to talk about a niche in a second, which would change it. But I would say that if you are a UI UX designer, that's your specialization. You don't need to go further than that. But I will tell you about niching in a moment. Okay, so if you're uncertain of a specialization, you can head to that resource. I dropped it in chat there. But you can go even further than specialization. So there are 3 terms that I'm going to use here that I would like everybody to come up with. Your first term is your profession. That is an engineer, a designer, etc. That's one of those 9 verticals we talk about. Next is your specialization, and that's kind of the Hitmarker thing that we were just looking at. That is the subcategory that you're within. So an AI engineer versus a level designer versus a sound designer versus a composer, smaller subcategories of the larger category. And then finally, and this is the new one, is your niche. So this is basically your special sauce. This is what sets you apart from everybody else. So yes, you're an AI engineer, but you're an AI engineer who specializes or focuses on one specific thing. So maybe you are an AI engineer who focuses on real-time strategy games or something like that. Or you are a level designer who focuses on grim, dark, and horror games. I myself, when I talk about my niche, I will often say that I am a content designer who focuses on edutech and wholesome games. Basically, I like teaching people, and I'm good at it. So these are your three ways of niching yourself, your three terms to help niche yourself. What I would like you to do is on a piece of paper, in a notebook, or just a blank piece of paper, or you can open up a text document. I want you to make a new document or a new piece of paper, and I want you to write at the top of it, portfolio plan. So these are going to be your steps to build out your portfolio and some questions to answer to help you build out your portfolio. And the first thing I want you to write on your portfolio plan is your profession, your specialization, and your niche. So come up with your profession, your specialization, and your niche. And then I want you to write that on your portfolio plan. Once you have done so, I'd love to see them in the chat so that we can get some examples from the rest of the room. All right, so Pixojoy is an artist who focuses on 3D character art and loves to work on family multiplayer MMOs, massively multiplayer online games. That's super cute. Now we know exactly who Pixojoy is. And this is really the important part, this is why we niche. If ever I am a founder of a game studio and I'm working on a new game and I'm making this cute family MMO, but I need an artist, when Pixojoy's portfolio and resume comes through, Pixojoy is immediately going to be at the top of the stack because I know Pixojoy focuses and specializes on exactly my game. There's going to be 400 other people who are all 3D artists, yes, but probably this one focuses on darker, grittier stuff, and this one is more focused on like first-person shooters maybe, but Pixojoy is exactly what I need for this particular job. Alexander, artist, concept art, sci-fi. Yokai is an environment artist focusing on horror games. Great. JJ Ron is an audio programmer in unwholesome games. Is that like, I'm not going to ask about that actually. Tyla is an artist focusing on environment art in real-time and semi-realistic games. Nice, I love that. The niche doesn't have to be a game genre. That's just kind of the easiest one. But like I said, I focus on edutech a lot, which is sort of a weird subcategory of thing, right? I tend to work in educational content a lot. Koi-sama is an artist, a 3D character artist, focusing on mythological games and realism. That's pretty cool. Love it. Okay, so this is your first thing to take away from this talk. When you work on your portfolio, I want you to take this profession, this specialization, and this niche, and I want you to work it into the portfolio. It should not say that you were a game designer. It should say instead that you are a level designer who focuses on horror games or whatever else. That can hurt you, so be a little bit careful about it. Make sure that there are actually jobs available that you would qualify for using your niche. But in general, this is going to help you because it makes you the perfect person for those standout couple of jobs. All right, so let's actually do some portfolio reviews now. I'm going to show off 2 that I really like, and then I'm going to talk about some of yours in the room. So you can now put your portfolios into the chat, and I'm going to go through a couple of those. I'm going to be pretty quick about them so that I can get through as many of them as possible. But I am going to literally review your portfolios here before we talk about planning. So here's the 2 that I have found that I really like. I have shared this one a lot, so you may have already seen this one. This is Surya Narendrans. Surya is a member of the Indie Game Academy community. He also teaches a couple classes for us here and there. Really smart guy, really sweet, kind person as well. And I love his portfolio. So I'm going to call out some of what I really love about it. One, I like that he has a headshot at the top of the page and a little bit of a bio. Some people don't think you should have that. I firmly disagree. A portfolio without me knowing who you are feels like cold and disconnected. And some recruiters probably won't care about your profile, but almost no recruiters are going to be upset by you having a little bit of a bio. So don't take up too much space here. Make sure your first published title is above the fold, meaning I don't have to scroll to see it. But for this small amount of space, this is perfect. I see Surya, I know who he is, I start to feel connected to him. I also see a little bit about his niche. I actually think he could niche himself even more, but we do see that he mentions that he's drawn to projects that make the world a better place. So if I'm making a game where I feel like I'm making the world a better place with this game, I'm going to be more attracted to Surya, more likely to hire him because I know he gets it, right? And that's exactly why we niche ourselves. Okay, now the most important takeaway from this, I mentioned earlier, but biggest thing, finished, released, published games. A plus, number one. I don't care what else you have on there. The main thing they're going to want to know is your finished published titles, your completed games. Like I said, one completed game is worth 1,000 half-finished projects or tests. Finish your titles and then release them and publish them. So you'll see that Surya's first project here, Humbugs, is on Steam. Immediately link them to that page so that they know it's legit, they know it's published, and so they can go and see it if they wish. You'll notice a bunch of stuff that I like about this. You'll notice that he always uses GIFs instead of pictures as much as possible. Use GIFs and videos. It's just like monkey brain stuff there. We like seeing GIFs and videos, and the recruiter can more easily understand what the game is and see some of the work you put into it. I love that Surya has almost like a resume clip where he's talking about how he contributed to the game. Think about your portfolio like it's a sales page where you're selling yourself to the recruiter. So this is him talking about how he contributes and what he can contribute to the recruiter's game. And he has a little bit about the game, which I actually think you don't really need, maybe a little. But mostly what you should have is how you contributed. And each of his games does this, follows the same formula. It's playable, you can find it, it is released. He talks about how he contributed and what he did for the game, and he includes attractive and interesting GIFs and videos. After that, after he shows up his top 3 to 5 games, he then has some extra stuff. He's got some Game Jam entries on here. He's got some of his other experience. He has an About Me page, which I actually think an About Me section is really good. I've had some wonderful conversations with recruiters as a result of something I wrote in here. He talks about his skills, definitely important. I actually think maybe this should be at the top or higher up. And then he's got to contact me. So I love Surya's. That's a great example. I'll drop it in the chat here for anyone who wants it. Okay, next one is Shane. So Shane is a producer. I really like Shane's for a number of reasons, and very similar reasons to Surya's. I like that he has a headshot and a bio. I think this bio is too long. It is good that his first game is above the fold. He doesn't have to scroll. You don't have to scroll to see it. But I do think this is longer than most recruiters are going to read. This is a fact. Recruiters are going to spend probably like a minute on your portfolio, maybe less. They just have too many portfolios to review for them to spend much longer than that. So if they're expected to read a bunch of text, they probably just aren't going to read it. So Surya's like, that's a sentence, I can read that even if I only have a minute. Shane's is like pretty heavy, probably too much. And I think the same thing applies to all the text he has on each game. But I love that he is including some facts that will matter. He's a producer, so it matters what size team he managed, right? And it matters how long the project took. He's a producer. And it matters the awards, although he just has to be announced. I probably just wouldn't have this in that case. I love that he's using videos and not pictures. Funnily enough, I found Shane's portfolio just by Googling, which you can do as well. If you're trying to find a good example of a narrative design portfolio or whatever you are, just Google games narrative design portfolio, see what you find. Love that he has video. And then this is the biggest thing I like about Shane's portfolio. He spends a lot of time talking about how he contributed to the project. That's the most important part here. You are selling yourself, right? This is a pitch page almost. It's like a product page where you are the product. And he does this for every one of his titles. So both of these are great examples. I will post this one too. So let's jump into a couple of your portfolios. I'm going to give maybe 10 or 20 minutes to your portfolio. So we're going to get through a good number of these right now. All right, I'm going to start way at the top. Valerie sent their portfolio first. First thing I want to say is that art portfolios are a little bit different. If you're an animator or a rigger or an illustrator, any visual art portfolios are a bit different. For game design and development, and pretty much anybody who works in production except artists, you're going to want released titles. That is still true for artists. They still want to know that you've worked on released games. But the nice thing about visuals is that I can tell you can do the work without having to play the game. A game designer, for instance, I don't know if you can do the work unless I play the game. So the reason I preface with this is because I don't actually love ArtStation portfolios. They're acceptable, but it makes it harder for me to immediately pick up what games you have released. Um, that is flying contrary to what I just said, in that this is mostly all I need to see to judge if you are good enough for my company as a recruiter. But I do think that ArtStation portfolios in general are not very flexible, and they don't let you sort of tell the story almost. For Surya's portfolio, I come to Surya's portfolio, I see his face, I know who he is. This is the first thing I read. Then I see his top project, the one he wants me to see. Then I see his next project, the one he wants me to see. He tells me the information he wants to deliver. Same thing with Shane's. He's sort of like, that's not right. Where'd Shane's go? Same thing with Shane's. He's sort of like, he's deciding how to present and what to present to the recruiter, right? He's designing his portfolio and the experience the recruiter is going to go down. So the reason I don't love, even though I think it's mostly acceptable, the reason I don't love ArtStation portfolios is because it's harder to actually decide where the recruiter is going to go. If I come to this page, probably the first thing I'm going to look at is this banner, which is good. That looks pretty nice. Valerie, I like that. Clearly, you've got some talent. But next, where are my eyes going to go next? Where is the recruiter going to go next? Who knows? Maybe they're going to look over here and see Valerie's picture. Maybe they're going to come down here and click on this pumpkin. This pumpkin has a lot of visual weight. This is sort of a UI UX problem or a game design problem. But I'm trying to tell you why I don't love ArtStation portfolios. I know tons of artists use them, and I think mostly they're okay. But something to consider, artists, is orchestrating where the recruiter actually spends their time. If we were designing a game, we wouldn't build 12 paths for the player to go down if 9 of those paths sucked, right? If they weren't good paths, weren't interesting and fun. Instead, we would probably just not build those paths, and we would just show them 3 paths that are all awesome and well designed. Sort of the same thing. That's why I only recommend you actually put 3 to 5 games on your portfolio, even if you have 20, because if you put 20 on here, you don't know which game the recruiter is going to click on, and they might click on freaking Quick Draw Rangers from when you were 15 and go, man, this guy really doesn't know what he's doing, right? So that was a long rant, because I've been trying to decide what I think about ArtStation. So my top thoughts on ArtStation, I know there's a lot of artists in here, is that 1, it's probably okay. I know a lot of people use it, and a lot of artists do use this as their portfolio. But 2, at least consider where you're actually sending the recruiter. Right now, the highest visual weight for at least your grid is these ones with the slappy ball on them, because that red is really bright, takes up a lot of space. So that's probably good, because this seems to be a released title that you worked on, which is good. Now, to actually critique yours, Valerie, I am loving your actual talent. It's really obvious that you are competent and practiced. A lot of this looks really good. I'm loving that you're showing off so much of your process. That's something for everybody, no matter what your profession is. Show off your process. Tell them what your thoughts are. Don't take up too much space doing that. Something that I love about Shane's is, like I said, I do think you could even actually make these shorter, but something that he has that I love is I can click read more, and I can get just a stupid amount of information about this game. He's got so much stuff in here, including like some of the prototyping, including some of the work that he literally did, more pictures, more explanations, the timeline of the game. So if I want, I can really go in depth and see that Shane knows his shiz. But for the most part, Shane has once again designed the experience. He has decided what is the most important thing for the recruiter to actually see. So it's good to show off your thought process. Just like hide it, make that optional. Don't spend your entire homepage showing off your process. Make it a read more button or something similar to that. But that is part of what I like, Valerie, about what you have here. I get to see your thought process. I actually think if it's, you do have the option, yeah. I actually think something you could do is include more details about your thoughts. I did this because I solved this problem. Maybe this thing was taking up too much space. It was too big of a file, so we actually reduced the textures and it still looks good. A little bit about how you actually solve problems and built this game. So that way I can see into your mind and know that you know what you're doing. I like that you have your published game on here. This is great. Same thing, I think you could talk more about it. What are some of the problems you solved, some of the decisions behind how the game looks, etc. I think also you could have, Experience in the game industry. Okay, this is pretty good. I give that a B plus. I think you could include your niche, meaning yes, you have a 3D environment artist, props, and technical artist, but this is sort of threatening being a generalist a little too much. I think you're saying I can do all these things, and I get that. I don't think this is so much that you have to remove it, but I might focus it with that niche a little bit. So I'm a 3D environment, props, and technical artist that specializes in X, Y, and Z, or focuses on or enjoys building X, Y, and Z. Okay, I've spent too long on Valerie's because Valerie's was an example of ArtStation, which is something I've been trying to wrap my head around. All right, next we have Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for being brave and showing us your portfolio. I am loving this character up here. Reminds me of like Nausicaa or a similar Miyazaki. I like, this is actually that's a great note that I haven't mentioned before. I like this precedent that some of you seem to be setting where you are using the thumbnail to tell us what the game is. That's something that I can confidently recommend to everybody who has an ArtStation portfolio. This way, I know that this is a published title or a game of some sort, or a project at least of some sort, versus just a mock-up or piece of art. I like this. If any of your posts on ArtStation have to do with an actual game or a project, put this in the thumbnail so that people know what it is and so that you're attracting the eye of the recruiter. Okay, so I like that you have a little bit of diversification. You're showing off that you can do some 3D art, but it is also, it feels very much, and this is potentially a good thing, potentially a bad thing, feels very much that you are a 2D illustrator. That's what I would assume you are from this portfolio. If that's what you are, great. If that isn't what you are, maybe consider changing up your portfolio. I like that you have, like I said, a bit of diversity. This is actually really strong. I love these characters. This feels very like opinionated about the style, which people tend to care about with artists. They want to see that you have a distinct style. The illustration, I would actually say, feels like a little bit weaker. And I say that with all the love, I care about all of you. But interestingly, that looks pretty good, but this is adorable. This is a fully releasable piece of art. And so is this, with a real strong sense of style. This is also something I don't love in ArtStation. I get why people do it, the multiple categories, but it feels like something a recruiter would never click on. So I don't know, take that advice as you may. I doubt anybody's going to actually click through these categories, except like somebody who's really spending a long time on your profile, and that's probably not a recruiter, unfortunately. Michelle, I would add a little bit more of a bio. Tell me about you. Who are you? Give me a little bit of a glimpse. Not too long, a paragraph or less, but at least a little bit of a sense of who you are. I also think, unfortunately, you are diversifying yourself too much here. This definitely makes you feel like a generalist. You are both a game designer and a developer and an illustrator and a concept artist. And unfortunately, how a recruiter is going to look at that is that you're not a master of any of those things. Jack of all trades, master of none, right? So this profile to me, this portfolio, very much looks like you're an illustrator. So I might just focus on that, or I would build multiple portfolios, one for each, and only send the one that you're applying for. All right, next one. We're gonna get into rapid fire land here because I'm talking too long about each of these. Tons of ArtStation portfolios. All right, River, welcome, River. Focus on modeling and texturing for game environments. Recent graduate of Academy of Interactive. All right, this is decent. I feel like the recent graduate of Academy of Interactive Entertainment, that's not bad or anything, but I feel like you could probably use this space to give me more of a glimpse of who you are. I don't really know who you are based upon this statement. I just know that you graduated from somewhere. You could drop in your niche, tell me about what you tend to focus on in 3D modeling and environment art. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll say that's good. I would definitely love to see more here. Oh, these are the categories again. Interesting. Let me play around with this and then I'll give my thoughts on that. I think probably it's a bad thing, I would say, to have these sort of groupings like you have. I'm not super familiar with ArtStation, so forgive me if I'm using weird terminology or whatever. I think probably it's better to just have a nice big grid like Michelle and Valerie had. Having these gives the recruiter a sort of paralysis of choice. Which one do I click on? And once again, probably they're only going to click on one because they've only got about a minute for your profile. So probably they'll just click on this leftmost one, which I think is just everything. Yeah, it's just all. But like, why even have them click then? Just have it be open right away, like this probably. I do think this, your mobile game UI, looks a little bit weaker than the other work. I might just remove it. Once again, show them only your top 3 to 5. This Kettle Grove definitely looks the best out of everything you've worked on. It looks like it's an actual release title, which is great. I would focus on this more, maybe even have more posts about it instead of just the one. Give me more information about it. Looks like you have at least some of that, but once again, give me your thought process. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me why you made these decisions. I'm loving that. That's awesome. Showing them that you are capable of doing some texture flows. Love the UI. This is really strong. This post in particular is very strong, River. So like I said, I might break it up, but whatever you do, remember that you're going to try to design this experience. So try to direct the recruiter to that post. Ultimately, this is what you want them looking at. And you don't want them clicking into this because this just looks weaker. Doesn't look bad or anything, but I think we can all agree like that looking spicy. That looks great. And that is also why I always say those top 3 to 5 games, your best stuff is what belongs in your portfolio, because you just don't want them to click into something that isn't as strong. You want to put your best foot forward. All right, let us move on. Well done, River. Okay, we have so many ArtStation portfolios. All right, Tyla, welcome, Tyla. That's interesting. I actually like that, I think. So Tyla decided to have a portfolio section and then an all section, and the all section is not the default. So what Tyla effectively did using ArtStation is they added just the stuff they want the recruiter to click on, and then if the recruiter wants to, they can see everything. But what that does is a lot of what I'm talking about. It makes you opinionated. It says, hey, recruiter, this is what you should look at, which is great because this is looking really freaking nice. So Tyla is a 3D environmental artist, makes sense. This is a beautiful scene. I love this. Similar to River, I know people don't usually do this on ArtStation, but I might break this up into a couple of different posts so that it looks like there's more here, even though they're kind of all the same thing. Because one drawback of how you did this, Tyla, is that it feels like you haven't worked on that much. I'm a game designer, so I speak a lot in terms of feel, but as a recruiter, if I come to this page, the first thought that I'm going to have, or at least a subconscious thought I'm going to have is, oh, they've only worked on 3 things. So perhaps break this up or just keep working on more stuff. But this is beautiful. Well done. All right, let's look at your bio. I would shorten this 1 paragraph or less. They're just never going to read more than that. 3D environmental artist with lots of skills and lots of passion. Playing video games for making art as long as I can remember. My 2 favorite things and making my career's dream come true. I actually think, and I say this once again with all the love, I love all of you. Let's have a great time here tonight. I actually think, Tyla, that you don't need any of that. Or mostly, the first sentence is decent. But so lots of skills and lots of passion doesn't actually mean anything to me, if that makes sense. I don't know what that even means as a recruiter. Could mean so many different things to different people. All of us have been playing video games for as long as we can remember. That's why we're in the game industry. Many of us are combining our favorite things together. We've all graduated from somewhere. And this is kind of crappy. And you can disagree with me on this next statement. But talking about the awards that you received in uni or in school can read a little bit like you're trying to convince me that you're great instead of just letting me see that you're great, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I don't know. I've mentioned this kind of thing before on my own resumes and portfolios, especially when I was earlier in my career. So you might leave it, but I feel like it would actually be better just to give me a taste of who you are, because I actually don't know who you are from this really. In fact, I feel like the fact that you studied deaf culture is maybe the most interesting thing I see out of this bio. All right, great work, Tyla. I'm loving this freaking art down here. Let's look at the next one. GitHub portfolio. Oh, that's probably not it. Oh, that's strange. Oh, you just sent me a couple different things. I see. We're just gonna look at portfolio. I can confidently say, while I will say that ArtStation is like, it's okay. I can confidently say that itch.io portfolios kind of suck. I think you should build a new one, Rajan. And I think anybody else with an itch.io portfolio can build a new one. I get why you do, it's convenient, but it shows that it's convenient. This, unfortunately, just doesn't look that good to me. I, one, have no information about who you are. And you can add that on itch, so you could do that. But all I know is your name. I don't know what you do. I don't know if you're an engineer, an artist, a game designer. All I know is your name and some games you've worked on. Of the games that you have in this list, the most impressive one to me definitely seems to be Zombie Shooter. I'm judging these very quickly, but so is a recruiter going to. So this has nothing to do with how good the game is. These visuals here have nothing to do with how good the game is or how promising the game is, but that will still matter. So something you might consider is creating some nice, beautiful thumbnails for these or some videos of the game instead of these static shots. It looks to me like these are largely practice projects, which is okay, but fully finished released games published to an actual store are going to matter more. I would also spruce up the pages if you are going to use itch.io, which I usually tell people itch.io is like acceptable, just iOS, Steam, Android, Oculus Store, all of those are going to matter more. So if you can only release it somewhere, itch.io is okay. But if you can, get your game actually out on a store and charge some money for it, because both those things just make it feel more professional, and let them know that you've been through more of the process. So if you are going to release a game on itch, though, I would make this page as beautiful as you can, give it a nice background, add some other fun elements to it, because right now this feels a little bit lackluster. So Raja, I think you have some work to do. I feel like Zombie Shooter looks like a pretty good example game. These ones feel, or at least just from what I'm seeing here, a little bit small for a game that a recruiter is going to be impressed by. So I would continue to work on titles and build yourself a couple more impressive games or larger scoped games. Spend a couple of months on a project so that you can add it here and it can really be a nice example of your work. All right, next we have Alexander. We're going to let's go to 745. So probably we'll get through another 3 or 4 of these. All right, we have Alessandro. Alessandro, I would put an actual picture up here. I totally get why you don't have your actual picture up here, but for the sake of hiring, your real life human picture is going to look better than anything else you might put. Something I see now and then is somebody will send me like their company website as their portfolio. Those are not the same things. A company website and a personal portfolio are 2 completely different things. And so if you are using your company website as a portfolio, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Absolutely, this is about you. This is a sales page about you. It's not about your company. Even if you run a studio and you've been running it for 10 years, that's something that should be mentioned on your portfolio. It's not what the portfolio should actually be. Okay, so I would put your personal picture here. Concept artist to environmental artist, 24/7 music, sci-fi ambient, just a freelance artist, just want to create something new and tell a story. I feel like you could talk yourself up a little bit more. A little dose of confidence is good. Don't be cocky, but this kind of makes it sound like, I'm just casual. And you don't want them to feel like you're just a casual artist. So I would talk yourself up a bit more. I also think, so freelance is interesting. It's kind of its own beast because you aren't applying for jobs as a freelancer. You're trying to find clients, and that's a different relationship. So Alessandro, I might take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, depending on whether or not you are applying for companies. But personally, if you are going to apply for a company, I think the term freelance is probably going to hurt you more than it helps you, because it makes it sound like you may not be as much of a team player, at least in my mind. So I might remove that if you are going to apply for actual job positions. Besides that, let's look at some of these. Oh, dang. Nice. Some beautiful trippy art. Awesome. I think this is looking the most attractive to me. Interesting. So you worked on like a tie-in game? Is that what this is? Um, I don't have much context for what some of this stuff is. So same deal. I would put more information in here as best you can. Oh, promo art exercises. Okay. Episodes of experience. Got it. Got it. Okay. So this is good. I actually totally forgot that this section is over here. So definitely for everybody who uses ArtStation, use this section. Give me more context. Give me information. The fact that I didn't notice this is an example of why I don't like ArtStation as much. But a recruiter is going to be more comfortable with it, probably has seen a billion of these. So they're going to know this is over here. So use this section to give me more context. Help me get into your brain. Help me see that you'll be a good candidate. This looks great. That's one of the more impressive ones I see on your portfolio as of right now. This is a really awesome looking character. Nice. Good. This is a good solid foundation. I would keep working, Alessandro, and I might make yourself two versions of your portfolio. If you are doing freelance, I might have a separate one for the freelance work. And then if you are applying for larger companies, I might do that. I also think it would behoove you to have some published games. I'm not sure if this is published or not. Cartoon themed academy job. Oh, interesting. That's cute. So I would work on some games that are actually released. And the best way to do that is to find a team and force your teammates to actually finish. All right. Next, we have Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Sarah is a character designer and also does environmental art, it looks like, as well as some game design. Similar to what I said to Michelle, I think. Somebody. Oh, I just closed Michelle's. I think it was Michelle. This makes you look like a bit of a generalist. Mostly, by the way, when I say that, it's when you're crossing disciplines. So if you're saying, I am both a game designer and an engineer, that just makes me think that probably you're a little bit worse at both of those things. It can be very valuable. I will often talk about in interviews that I know programming as a game designer. It's just that I'm not applying that way. I'm not telling them like that I'm both. I'm saying I'm a game designer, and then once I'm in the interview, I'm going to say also I have programming experience, which will means that I generally relate to the engineers much better, et cetera, et cetera. Having it all right here makes me think that this is not too bad, by the way, or anything like that. But it does make me think that you have a little bit less experience in all of the categories because there are multiple categories. This is a cute little piece of work. Oh, I love the promo art. That's awesome. This looks like a published released game, which is good. Great addition to your portfolio. Your character design looks decent. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. For everybody, it's going to help you to add more to your portfolio, and then focus in on just that best stuff. And once again, I love using like a more button so that you're just showing the best stuff, and then you can go look at the more stuff somewhere else. Environmental art. That's interesting. So you're like a 2D environmental artist. That's pretty good. Traditional. Nice. Yeah. I would say, Sarah, yours is pretty good. I would keep working and especially get yourself some released games. I might add a headshot and a bio. I'm always a fan of that. I don't think you necessarily need to remove this stuff, but it probably doesn't help you to claim that you are also a game designer right here. All right. I don't remember where we are. Colorful cows. Yes. All right, Douglas. Nice. All right, Douglas. I would probably put the last name here. Always good to have your last name so that they know that it's you. Douglas Green, intermediate 3D modeling artist. Nice. I love that you're talking about specializing in creating props. Always learning, experimenting. I would cut this down to at least half, paragraph or less. 3D prop artist and digital artist. That's pretty good. And your work looks decent. It looks like a lot of this work is sort of practice work, which is better than nothing. But as I've said a couple of times now, your finished released titles are going to matter more than anything else. So if any of this work is from a released game, I would call that out. The aim of developing my modeling and painting. Okay, yeah, so this is not not in a released game. So I would go find some people you can do some game jams with or similar work, or find somebody to hire you to work on a live game, of course, so that you can get some live games out. But otherwise, this looks like a good start. Nice, this one looks great. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to call this the last one. So, the Scrapper. Michael Coons, .tech. Amazing. Showcase some of my personal projects. Okay. Not all projects are mobile friendly. This is kind of interesting. This is a bit of what I'm talking about with sort of a company website. Obviously, this is about you, but you haven't actually, you're sort of using the site to show off a bunch of stuff you've worked on as opposed to directing it, making it a specific thing. This is what I do, and this is why I'm awesome at doing it. So I might recommend that you focus down a bit. I can tell you're an engineer. I mean, this is not bad. I would, at the very least, I would use the term portfolio just to make sure nobody gets confused. I would use your full name up here. I would include what you do. So it feels obvious that you're an engineer, especially with Unity certified, but I may not know that, right? So literally call it out. I am a backend engineer that does X, Y, and Z, or an algorithms engineer that does X, Y, and Z, or whatever. As far as the actual content, it definitely feels like most of these are sort of tech demos, which for engineers are not bad, especially if they show something impressive. Like actually 3D noise is a whole complex system. And the fact that, the fact that I can play with it in the browser is very cool. If I was working on a web heavy game of some sort, this would be a big bonus. This makes me go like, yeah, this dude knows how to optimize for web. So I don't think you need to remove these, but it will definitely help you, Michael, to get some released games on here. Looks like this is one of them, which is good, but it also looks like this is a simpler one. I would grab some teammates you can work with, get somebody to make you some beautiful 3D art, and then work on some finished games. Nice. Okay, so that's all the portfolios I'm going to focus on for right meow. Where were we? Yes. So let's talk about actually building out the portfolio. We're gonna now create ourselves a portfolio plan, like I've been saying. Basically, I'm gonna have you write down a bunch of due dates and a bunch of homework for things that you need for your portfolio. So remember this recommended path that we've already talked about. Learn your tech stack. If you don't know the tools, then you need to know the tools. that one should be obvious. Work on a couple of team-based games in small projects. Build yourself a couple of mid-sized games. Then you should have a couple of games that are good enough to put in the portfolio. Build that beautiful portfolio website, and then start applying and networking like crazy. Ultimately, the steps to building a portfolio are pretty straightforward. Make games, then make portfolio. Generally, if you don't have another software that you use to build your portfolio, I will recommend Wix. The only reason I recommend Wix is because it's easy. It's not the best tool in the world. It can be a little bit fidgety and annoying, but it is very easy, and you can build a portfolio for free. So if you use HTML or Squarespace or some other solution, go ahead. But if you don't have a solution for making your portfolio, I can recommend Wix to you. Okay, so my top tips for making a portfolio are as such. Like I said, this comes about from working with a bunch of students. Number one, remember this is a sales page. I've said that a couple of times. You're selling yourself. Think about that lens anytime you put anything on the page. How do I make myself look like an awesome candidate? How do I showcase my abilities? Showcase released games above all else. Fully released games, done. Who is Thor? Preferably for money. Remember to niche yourself. So talk about your niche and talk about why that matters and how it applies to these different games. Focus on games that are in similar genres to where you want to work. Just like a resume, talk about how you contributed. That's another big one. How did you actually contribute to this project? If you have any metrics or stats, do that. I love talking about how at InView, I increased the retention rate by 43%. All I actually did was add multiple levels to a game that they only had one level in. Not a giant concept, but I did, as a result of that, increase the retention rate by 43%. So any metrics you can come up with or add, those are going to matter. People like numbers. And then don't forget to inject a little bit of personality into it as well. Yes, you want to hit all these checkboxes, but also, you want you to shine through. That does matter. So my hard rules for you, the things that are like, no disagreeing with these. Number one, single scrollable page. You can have other pages that link, but I should, as a recruiter, be able to get everything I need from that homepage. I should be able to scroll down it like it's a nice product page that's trying to sell me some new online bullshit. But it's about you and how awesome you are. Only show off your top 3 to 5 games on that homepage. Once again, you can have a more button that links to other projects and stuff like that. But once again, think about it like a designer. How do you guarantee they're going to look at the top games, the most important things for them to see? You do that by only including those top 3 to 5 games on the homepage. Do not make it a playable portfolio. Every once in a while, somebody has a very clever idea and says, I'm going to make my portfolio a video game. I get it. That's very clever. Recruiters don't have time for that. It will mostly probably just annoy them. So avoid that. Just make it a portfolio. Include a headshot and a brief bio. Include contact info and your resume. That's one I didn't realize for a while, but sometimes people will find your portfolio without knowing who you are. So include your resume on there so they can always grab it. Include links to player games. Use GIFs and videos as much as possible. And remove projects that aren't applicable or hide them somewhere else. All right, now we're going to go through 7 key steps. So I'm going to have you add 7 due dates to your portfolio plan right now. So grab your portfolio plan back out. I'm about to add a bunch of them. The biggest thing that you're going to be adding is a couple of games to build out, to practice your skills, get yourself back up to speed and sharpened up as an awesome candidate. And then more importantly, so you have something for your portfolio. So for anyone who doesn't already know, if you don't know how to make games, if you don't know where to make games, your best friend is going to be game jams. How many people in this room have done at least one game jam? Yes. Yes. 2 game jams. Nice. Well done, Rajan. Love doing jams. Absolutely. Yeah, your best friend by so much is game jams. We interview one person every week in our Discord as a way to just like keep the Discord active as like a utility for the Discord, but also as a way to keep learning. And we recently interviewed Coin Crew Games, who are the people who made Escape Academy, which is a pretty well-known indie game. And I actually met them at GDC last year where they gave a talk. Their website kind of sucks, actually. No offense. Love them. They're great. But let's see. Where is this going to take me? Steam? Oh, weird. Oh, that's the press kit. All right. Well, we won't even bother with this website. So recently interviewed them. And in the interview, we were talking about people's portfolios. And they said something interesting. They said, I actually almost prefer that they mention their game jams. And the reason that they said that is because it shows that you can finish a game in a tight timeline and get that shit done. It actually matters. It's a great example of you sticking to your time boxes, which is such a useful tool on a team. Such a useful skill. Having a couple team members who just keep blowing up the project and making it bigger and bigger and bigger is a recipe for a game to never get finished. We've all done that. I know we've all done it, but so much more useful to actually finish games. So game jams are a phenomenal place to just hold yourself accountable to actually get the game done, to network a bit, meet new people, and just as sort of inspiration to build the games. So I'm going to basically suggest that you make a bunch of games and you're going to put in some dates for which games you're going to make when. If you're curious about where you actually make those games or where you get the inspiration or the teammates to make the games, it's game jams all day long. Game jams are amazing. So here are a couple of the big ones. Ludum Dare is by far the most well-recognized and most beloved game jam in the industry. Global Game Jam, also one of the biggest. I think it is the biggest, actually. And then itch.io is your tried and true. At any moment ever, you'll be able to find a game jam. Each one of these little colored boxes is a game jam. So you can see how many of them there are happening right now. It is crazy. And you can find them at many different lengths too. So if you only have a weekend, just do a weekend and finish a game. Make a nice, strong game in a weekend. You can build a really beautiful Flappy Bird clone or something like that, and that will still count on your portfolio. Or if you have the time, you can do some longer ones. This one's about a week. So is this one. Down here, we have some really long ones. These are months long potentially. So this is a fantastic resource. When you're looking at jams to join, by the way, pretty much all of them, some of them won't, but the majority of them on itch.io have this community section. So this is also a fantastic way for you to find a team. Look, here's people doing it right now. I'm looking for a team. Anybody want to put a team together? And last thing I'll say about this is game jams and game development teams in general are notorious for falling apart and not finishing their games. Happens all the time. The way that you increase the odds of your game getting finished is you take 100% of that responsibility on your own back. I know it can be a lot, but you say, I'm putting together the team, I am managing the team, I am making sure this game gets done. You take all that responsibility, and then when people start complaining and disappearing, you say, no, we're finishing this. We said we would finish it. Okay, let's keep moving. Game jams. So let's actually make a plan. I'm going to have you write down 7 steps and 7 specific due dates. Your number one step is your first step, is to actually go find 3 job listings. So this is your first assignment. You should be able to do this either tonight or tomorrow. So put yourself a due date for this first assignment. You're just going to find 3 job positions that you are excited for and that fit your profession. That's it. That's the first assignment. Very easy. Find 3 job positions and write down a date for this, please, in your portfolio plan. Find 3 job positions that you are excited for and that fit your profession, that you feel like you're a great fit for. We're going to use these as inspiration for what we need to learn. I recently, for instance, went through this process. I got laid off like 6 months ago. I was a part of all that craziness. So I'm also an example of you finding your way back into the industry. So, hopefully that's a little comforting for everybody. But after I got laid off, I went through a period where I was just picking up all the skills I didn't know from these job listings, and that helped a lot. Nice, congrats, Ace. High five. So write down these job listings. And then step 2, and I want you to give yourself a due date for this as well. This should just take you a couple of days, 2, 3, maybe 4 days. I want you to look at those job listings and pull out the top 3 skills that you think you need to practice. So put on your portfolio plan a due date for your skill practice. You're going to pull out the top 3 skills that you need to practice, and then you're going to find some nice tutorials for them, some YouTube videos, some Udemy courses, whatever they are. So for instance, in that last round, after I got laid off, I realized that pretty much everybody was asking for game designers to know how to use Unreal blueprints, and I didn't yet know them. I went and studied them. I realized they were super easy and also very valuable. I picked that up in less than a week, easily less than a week, just a weekend, maybe even. So your step 2 on the portfolio plan is you're going to put a specific date for when you finish your skill practice, when you're going to finish practicing these 3 skills. So this way you are upskilling yourself, making sure you're a good candidate. Next thing, we're going to get to our first game. So on your portfolio plan, I want you to add a solo project as the 3rd due date. Give yourself a specific due date for when you finish a solo project. This is so that you don't need to be scared of messing things up with your team, but you can finish a game and have that game for a portfolio pretty quickly. Choose a time box for this game that is less than 1 week long. I would recommend just 48 hours, 2 days. Finish a game in 2 days. And then when you finish this game, I want you to release it to itch.io, put it up online, because then it is good enough for a portfolio. Probably this is going to be a weaker portfolio game, but it will be a game you could put on your portfolio. All right, your 4th step, there are 7 total steps. Your 4th step, you're going to add a 4th due date to your portfolio plan, is a team-based small-scale game. So a small-scale team game. Takes less than a week long. So probably, once again, I would just recommend a game jam, 48 hours. But this time you're going to do it with a team. You're going to finish that game, take the responsibility on your own back, and then you're going to put that game up on itch.io again. So now you have a 2nd portfolio piece. Even if you had no portfolio pieces to date, now you have 2. And this one is with a team, so recruiters know you can work with a team. Your 3rd game that I'm going to have you put on your portfolio plan, your 3rd due date, your 5th due date to add to your portfolio plan is a mid-scale project. So add a due date for your mid-scale project. Mid-scale means 2 to 4 weeks long in my books. So find a game jam that's 2 to 4 weeks long, or just start a game that's 2 to 4 weeks long. And once again, do this with a team. So find an animator, find an engineer, find a project manager, whatever you need for this game. And then release this game on iOS, Android, or Steam. Abel says, I'm glad he's recording. Yes, I will drop the recording, probably not tonight. We'll see, because it needs a couple hours to process. But I will drop everything at worst tomorrow for all of you. Okay, so you're going to finish a mid-scale project with the team. Put that down on your portfolio plan. Add a due date for this, 2 to 4 weeks long. All right, so now you have at least 3 games. Even if you haven't started your portfolio yet, which most of you have, you've got 3 finished games to add to your portfolio. Congratulations at this point in the portfolio plan. At this point, you could consider doing a larger project. Now you have done a solo project, a short solo project, a short team-based project, and a mid-sized team-based project. So you're starting to escalate. You've probably made some mistakes. You've probably learned some things. So if you want to take the time, now would be a great time, now that you have a little bit more experience, to build out a large-scale project with the team. Large scale, in my opinion, should be anywhere between 2 months and 6 months long. Don't make it any longer than that. And for every one of these time boxes, say it with me actually, or just say it after this. I don't know. Just say it out loud. Stick to your time box. There is no pushing back your due date, period. I say that because I see far too many, literally nearly 100% of projects. I see people keep pushing them back. It is so normal, but it is so damaging to the actual abilities that you need to break into this industry. So for every project you do from now on, I want you to set a specific due date and finish your game by that due date, period, hands down. And the reason that I recommend that is because every game project professionally does not finish all the features that they want to have in the game. So if I'm working professionally and I thought I was going to have time to add this cool feature, but the game has got to get released 4 weeks from now, bummer, I'm going to cut that feature out. That is a huge part of game design and game development, is being okay cutting things down until you have just the core beautiful stuff released on time. Lufin asks, are these full-time projects or part-time? That's a great question. If you have the capacity to do full-time, do it. You'll get them done faster. They'll be higher quality. If you are working another job, do it part-time. I actually, even though it's a lot of work, and I get that, I actually often recommend people keep their full-time jobs until they are making significant money from their projects or until they're capable of switching into the game industry, because it's just so much less stressful to have a source of income. And I get that that's a lot of work to try to do 2 things at once, but it's very possible. I've done it for years myself, and so have many other people. Okay. Same job, first doing game stuff, bills won't pay themselves. Yes. You can absolutely continue to do game stuff while you're looking for a job. And if you are looking for a job in the game industry, the reason I'm recommending this is because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it will help you get a job. I get your mentality, Blue Jay, but I actually strongly disagree with you on that. A lot of people will say like, well, I can't do this because I have to do that. There just will never be a perfect time. There will always be a reason that you just don't have time. And what that means is if you keep letting there be a reason that you don't have time, that means you'll just never finish games. You have to, in any way that you can, make time for this process, for actually building games. That's part of why I recommend you do little 48-hour game jams, because you can find a weekend somewhere to devote to games. And I get it, other people have very, very busy lives, but any way you can, devote hours to your skill building and your portfolio building. If you want to break into games, it is essentially required. Okay, should we extend the timeline on account for part-time? No, yes. It's sort of, all of this. I am one advisor. I'm one advisor. There's other people for you to listen to, and no advice is going to be right for everybody. So all of this is optional. All of this is something for you to consider, to try out. If it doesn't really work for you, modify it. But I don't think you should increase the timeline, because it's hard to do much longer than like 6 months long, unless you're literally doing a professional game. And it's hard to do small projects in a brief period of time if you aren't giving them like a full time. So that's why I love 48-hour games, because you can do full time just for a weekend, and then you can go back to your job or whatever. Any way that you can do it. All right, people are talking about stuff. Nice, love it, love it. Okay, Love seeing that everybody's kind of hanging out, getting to know each other. That's good. All right, step number 6 is to actually build a portfolio. So on your portfolio plan, I want you to add a due date for actually finishing the portfolio. When will you finish your portfolio by? Put an actual date there. If you didn't already know this, your odds of finishing any goal increase by about 40% just by writing down a due date. That's a real stat. Literally just writing a due date down increases your odds of finishing your goal by 40%. So write down the date, the actual date that you will finish your portfolio by. There's lots of tools that you can use. I recommend Wix if you don't already have one that you prefer. But like I said, the only reason I recommend it is because it's easy. There are other tools out there. And the final step, an actual portfolio. The final step is when you're going to get people to review the portfolio. This is something that I see people skip semi-often, so it's a step I decided to add. Once you finish your portfolio, all of you have a portfolio, go and get it reviewed by a couple professionals. At the very least, get it reviewed by some peers. So add a date to your portfolio plan of when you're going to have at least 3 professionals review your portfolio. People in this server can help you. People at IGA can help you. Okay, step 8, profit. Now you're in games. No problem at all. Now at least you have a portfolio that has a couple of strong games on it and is going to help you get out. Okay, so it is now 8:07, which means we've been talking for an hour and a half. We're now going to kind of cool down and say goodbye. There's a couple of links I want to share with you before then. So the first one is, should you wish it, you're welcome to come and join the IGA Discord. I thought I already had a link for this. You're welcome to come join the IGA Discord. If nothing else, it's a great place to find collaborators. I think that's the main thing you'll find there. We focus on supporting each other and making games, like we said. So I will drop this in the chat for you. So there's the IGA server. Next link is Surya's portfolio, if you don't already have it. And Shane's portfolio, if you don't already have it. Oh, I just opened something random. Where'd you go, Discord? All right, there it is. Next link is the slideshow itself. I'll grab a bunch of the info that I just talked about. All right, and then the recording I'm going to have to drop later. So let's go ahead and cool down before we say goodbye. So first of all, if you remember, our second core rule is always to celebrate. So let's all pump up a little bit and then leave me your favorite celebratory emoji in the chat for getting through the night. We did it. Hour and a half of talking about portfolios. Yes, yes, well done, Pixajoy. Yes, CL, yes, well done. Yes, Tyler, very proud of you, Tyler. Yes, Ace. Yes, Lufin. It's the afternoon, though. All right, whatever, Lufin. We're all tired. I'm glad you're having a nice sunny day. Just kidding. Very happy for you. Well done, Koi. Welcome, Butts. Welcome, Crack Zone. Awesome. Good job, everybody. Very proud of all of you. I dropped you your links already. So let's, one of the things I like to do, this is another tactic to basically help you remember stuff better. Let's do a little bit of a debrief. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I'd love to just hear from the room. What was one of your favorite lessons from today? What was one of your favorite lessons? Type in the chat for me. To niche. Yeah, very important. Cover letters. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't talk too much about that. I doubt a cover letter is going to make or break the job, but it definitely helps. So yeah, do some cover letters. Feedbacks, get that feedback. Bio page and photo, I agree. I like having a little bit of info about you. Itch.io portfolios kind of suck. Yeah. I mean, you saw the examples I showed and you saw ArtStation and then you saw the Itch.io one. It just looks so much better and so much more professional, not on Itch.io. Networking and using it, absolutely. Timebox, yes, finish your games. Nice, awesome, lots of great lessons. All right, what is something you're going to do differently moving forward? What's something that you're like, oh, dang, I got to start doing that, or I got to stop doing that maybe? What's something you're going to do differently? Personal statement needs to improve. Yeah, you can tell a lot about yourself. 1 second, the tea went down the wrong pipe. All right, I'm okay. Don't worry. I have a cat who can perform CPR on me if I need. Yes, definitely. Your personal statement can do a lot. I love Buttsman Savage saying actually use LinkedIn. Yeah, I spent so long judging LinkedIn, like, oh, these people are trying to be a social network. Ugh, disgusting. But LinkedIn is awesome. I like fully love LinkedIn these days. So yeah, use LinkedIn, make connections, do game jams, 100%. Respect the dates. Yes, such a valuable skill, no matter what your profession is. If you are a 3D animator who gets your stuff done at the date you said you would, whew, spicy, incredible. Mew? Question mark. Yeah, me too. I agree. Can I ask a few questions? Yes, definitely. So let's do Q&A time now. This is just open-ended time for you to ask questions about portfolio building or anything else. I'm just going to answer some for the next probably 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm going to wrap up. All right. Is it true / should you try to use as many words from the job listing in your cover letter because it'll go through an automated machine or something similar? Yes, scared to put headshot, personal information like race and gender due to prejudices. Interesting. Yeah. So I'm going to answer those in two parts. So the first one, is it true that you should put in words from the job description, and is it true that a robot is going to look at your page? Yes. Yes, it is. Most portfolios and resumes, for that matter, are going to get viewed by a robot. This is more true for resumes, by the way, than it is for portfolios. As far as I have seen and heard from recruiters, typically a machine is going to look at the resume first, and then if it gets through that pass, a human is going to look at the portfolio. But either way, for both your portfolio and your resume, absolutely use keywords that you're finding in the job descriptions. So where was that job? Here it is. If I'm looking at this job and I come down to ideal applicant, they're going to tell you, and the skills section for that matter, they're going to tell you exactly what they're looking for. Like, you don't need to wonder, they're telling you right here. That's the point of a job description. So this job requires that you have C++ experience. They want you to have worked on PC and Xbox. They want you to know linear algebra and vector math. Pull out those keywords, especially when you see them in multiple places. If 3 or 4 or 5 jobs mention, Unreal blueprints, like I was saying, then definitely have that somewhere. What I do, this is not a talk about resumes, but I can pull up my personal resume here. How do I get there quickly without showing you personal stuff? If it is, I don't even know if this will work. I think I can pop into. Okay, I don't have an easy way to pull up my personal resume for you right now, so I'll just have to tell you. I will often include skills like that, those keywords at the top of my resume. It's included in sort of the bio section towards the top of the resume. So yes, definitely a bot will look at your portfolio, and so have those keywords in there and have them definitely on your resume. Second question you had about basically headshot and personal information due to racial bias. That is such a tough one, and I'm so sorry that you have to even think about that. I frankly am not sure if you should avoid that or not. I guess I would recommend that you don't worry about it. And the reason I recommend that is, for most decent places, they aren't going to care. In fact, perhaps even in this day and age, they're looking for diversity hires, which are kind of their own problematic thing, but we don't have time to talk about that. So it may even help you. For those places where it does hurt you, if somebody is literally prejudiced against your people or whatever, anything about you, and decides not to hire you as a result of that, here's what I have to say about that. Good. Screw them. You didn't want to work there anyway. And I know that can be hard to hear when there's so few job opportunities out there, but like, really, truly, would you rather be at a company that has a problem with your race than not be at any company? Like, probably not. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would put up your headshot, and I would put up information about you, and I would be open about who you are. All right. Is LinkedIn like a portfolio optional, but last question by Tyler is LinkedIn required? I guess I would say no, but I also would say it doesn't hurt. So I would just make it. I like LinkedIn. It doesn't take that much effort. All right. Um, any other questions? All right, opinions on private portfolios to protect your legal name. I guess same kind of thing. Like I have never had my like legal identity stolen, and I know that that happens, but I feel like that's going to hurt you more than it protects you from anything. So personal opinion, and I get why people are nervous about it. So I don't know if you've had it happen to you before, maybe be more cautious. But personal opinion is probably don't worry about it. Chandler says, do you think there are any verticals that can go together nicely? Right now, I do programming, game design, and narrative. I like narrative and game design together. Yeah, narrative designers are actually often considered game designers. Generally, when we're talking about which category of profession narrative falls into, people agree it's in game design. I don't love that because I feel like they are two pretty separate things that you're focusing on. Game design is so much more mechanical. It's like, all right, how do I make this gameplay fun? Versus narrative is like, how do I tell a compelling story? And those are kind of similar, but very different. But that said, industry actually recognizes narrative design for the most part as game design. So those two definitely marry together pretty well. Okay. Other questions? Let's see. Lufin says, for engineering portfolios, are semi-related projects, non-game game engine projects, rendering projects, fluid sims good for main portfolio pieces? Good question. I would say engineering, the sort of like technical solutions or demos, those are definitely pretty good, especially if they're impressive. Still, published released games that you've contributed to matter more. So if you are going to include them, and I don't think it's a bad idea to, I would make sure you're just focusing more on those release titles. Empathize keywords more in resume than cover letters. Yes, definitely. I have a little skill section at the top of my resume that lists every skill I know that the robot might search for, and that I have. Don't lie, but include them all as long as you're at least semi-competent in them. Written before AI needs so much work. Yeah, I know. It's annoying. Applying can be a little exhausting. Okay. Very entertaining and enjoyable. Hell yeah, colorful cows. That's kind of our whole thing. That's what we try to do at IGA. You learn better if you're having fun. It is proven. Even though my portfolio is 2D art, for the past year, I've been getting paid for writing quests for an indie MMO. Nice. Very well done. If I include this as one of my skills, areas of expertise, will this take away? Yeah, that is a great question. I would say that you probably do want to make two versions of your resume then and your portfolio. If you are making quests, there's actually a thing called a quest designer. That's a real job, and there are a non-trivial number of those jobs available. So that sure sounds like you're a quest designer and not a 2D artist. So I would separate those two things. Have one resume portfolio that you send to people when you were applying for quest roles, and then one that you're sending to people when you're applying for illustration roles. And if you're trying to decide between those two, by the way, if anybody here is trying to decide between two or more, these days I pretty much just tell people to pick the one that is the most exciting to them, with a little bit of pragmatism. Make sure there are actually jobs in that area, and make sure you have a credible amount of experience in that area. Otherwise, you're going to have to build that amount of experience. But ultimately, it does take a significant amount of work to break into games. So I just don't think it's really worth doing something that you're not excited to do. So if you are having trouble picking between a couple different things, pick the one you're just most pumped about. And if you're not sure which one you're most pumped about, do a couple sample projects. Do a little game jam where you're an artist, and then do a game jam where you're a quest designer, and then do a game jam where you're a programmer or whatever, and just see which one is the most exciting. All right, more questions? NFT game is a valid option to put in the portfolio? Yeah, sure. It's a game. Some people will hate it because some people just like hate NFTs and crypto. But I guess similar thing where like, if you love NFT, then probably don't want to work somewhere that really like hates NFT. But I would say it's valid as long as it's a legit game and it's published and released. Oh, look, we've reached the bottom. Awesome. When joining to a group or to start to make a game where there are creative differences, even there's a person that you know in the group, is it bad to leaving or better to rather deal with it, stay with the group? Oh, I see. Okay. So if you're working on a group project and you're having trouble with a team, should you leave or should you stay to finish the game? That is a hard one. I would say if your mental health is being negatively affected, it's not worth it. Um, I get why, especially once you've been there for a while, you're like, I want to finish this. And sometimes maybe that's worth it. If you're a month or 2 months away, maybe you can deal with the mental health deficit for a month or two. But ultimately, so much of this process is going to be momentum and keeping yourself energized and excited. And if you aren't excited to be working on that project, if it's draining you on a daily basis, then probably the net positive is actually negative. So I would say, don't just abandon ship left and right. But if it's truly affecting you in a significant way, I would not do it. I would leave. Does AI used to create games possible to be put in the portfolio? Something like prompt engineer. No. A prompt engineer is not a recognized job, and mostly people are going to laugh at you. I am sorry to say that. It is sort of a real job, and probably at some point, Crack Zone, it will be a real job. But at least for right now, people really don't like AI, and it will turn a lot of people off. You can include games that have AI generated content for sure, because that still showcases that you are capable of putting the thing together. But if I think what you're asking is, should I label myself as a prompt engineer? I would say no. I think mostly you might get one or two people who kind of like that or want that, but I think mostly people are going to look down on that. All right. Are there different approaches that we should take for portfolios focusing primarily on remote jobs? That is a good question. I don't think so. I probably wouldn't even mention that you're looking for remote work in the portfolio. I would say that may even hurt you because, some people don't like remote work. Make sure that the job accepts remote work before you apply. And then during the interview, they will inevitably ask you what you prefer, and you can tell them then. I would say probably just don't bother putting that on the portfolio. Any advice for people on narrative design when it comes to your portfolio? Yeah, absolutely. So I actually didn't find a narrative design portfolio that I loved. So if anybody has any good examples, you can let me know. Maybe this one. Let's see. I haven't looked at this one yet. Nah. Well, I'll show you the one that I do have, and I'll tell you some of what I like and what I don't like about it. So narrative design is largely a game designer. They're sort of their own thing. The thing that's different about narrative design and writing is that a lot of your work is text. So you can absolutely include writing samples and text, but remember once again that these recruiters have like a minute to look at your page. So the problem with writing and text is that they can't easily and visually go, okay, yes, they do know what they're doing. For a visual artist, there's nowhere to hide. They look at it and they go, good or bad, and they immediately think that. For writing, it's harder. So what I would recommend for a narrative writing portfolio or anything in that field is that you, once again, include published titles that you contributed to as much as possible. That's the main thing you're focusing on. And then you can definitely, like the engineers, you can include some samples. So you might have like, a script you wrote, or definitely if like something got published somewhere, maybe you got published in some magazine or something like that, definitely include that kind of thing. But in general, you still want to focus on the games you've released and contributed to. And I'll drop this, even though I don't love this one, I'll drop this in case you want to look at it. All right. Remote jobs, narrative design. As an artist, how many examples would you say I should have in my main portfolio page per project? I don't know if I have an answer to that question. I guess probably no more than like 12. Probably like 8 to 12 sounds about right. You don't want so many that they will not look at all of them. Similar thing to how many games you're going to put on there. You want to direct what they see. You want to decide what they're going to see because you probably have a better idea of what's your primo content than they will, right? So I would say not so many that they're going to look at a bunch of crappy stuff or get flooded and not really know what to look at. But not so few that it feels like you didn't do that much work. So I don't know. This is me kind of guessing. I haven't had this question before, so thank you for asking it. I'd say like 8 to 12. The Scrapper, being a developer, I tried designing my own portfolio website, which is why my portfolio seems simplistic. Would it be better off to use a web creation site? Hard to say. I would say In general, the visuals of your portfolio do matter, even if recruiters claim that it doesn't. Because no matter what, when somebody comes to a web page, that page is going to make them feel a certain way. So if you are capable of putting together a portfolio that's attractive and sleek on your own, do it with code. If you can't do that, or if it's worth just saving the time, then yeah, go ahead and use a web creation site. There's no problem with a web creation site unless it can't do what you want it to do. And for a portfolio, your site is pretty dang simple. It's just kind of, a sales page. So I guess that's my answer. I would say probably to make it simpler, I would say just go with a web creation tool. If you feel like, yeah, I'll just leave it there. All right, Colorful Cows says, this was awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Colorful Cows. Oh, I thought it was a question. Well, thank you, Colorful Cows. All right. Entire org is remote. Mine too. I've been working remote since like 3 years before the pandemic. I don't know why. It just happened. What about visa issues? Yeah. I don't have a good passport, so I need a visa. That's fair. That's a tough one. I still don't know if I would advertise that because it's a similar thing. Think about it like, how like this is terrible dating advice, but you know how like some people will recommend that when you have your like weird eccentricities, you don't show those off until you are a couple dates in. It's kind of like that. A visa is extra burden on the company. They need to put in work to get you that visa. So if you start with that and they don't know you yet, they'll probably just go, we don't want to have to deal with that, and they'll move on to the next candidate. But if they've already decided that they like you, if they already are like, man, Rajan is really cool, and then they ask, if you need a visa, or they ask a similar question and you say, hey, I'm going to need a visa, then they're more likely to try to help you because they've already become invested in you in some capacity. So as always, I want to warn everybody, like, I'm only one advisor. I'm only one voice. You should get other people's opinions on all of this. But I would say probably just don't mention it until it's time to mention it. All right. How does it feel to work remote? Dope. Next question. Sometimes it sucks. I actually think my preferred relationship is more hybrid, where I'm in the office once or twice a week. Because you definitely get a little stir crazy being stuck at home. There's definitely less of a work-life balance and split. But that said, it is so nice to be able to roll out of bed and then walk over to my work computer and like start the Git download, and then walk over to the kitchen and grab some coffee. I really love working remote. All right. What about living in a country where the industry is not very big? How to make connections? Yeah, all of those are online as much as possible. Go to different online events. If you can, go traveling to countries where it is bigger and go to some of the events there. Go to a convention in the US or in the UK has a pretty big gaming scene. There's quite a few other countries that have a decently sized gaming scene. Maybe go traveling if you can afford that, if you can make that happen. If you can't, online events are your best friends. Go to as many of those as you can. Don't be shy to reach out to strangers. Think about this like digital cold calling or door knocking. Like in the olden days, I ran a painting business for a little while, and the way I got my clients is I would walk door to damn door, and I would knock and I'd say, "Hey, you want paint?" And many of them would tell me to go away, but every once in a while somebody said yes. And that's similar for online networking. A bunch of people are going to be annoyed that you're spamming them, but a couple people will be grateful and will have a great conversation with you. Okay. I don't remember if you showed any game programmer portfolio, but can you give some tips when looking for that position? Should I add the portfolio? Game programmer is pretty easy. I think it should basically be the same as what I've already shown off. Surya, for instance, while he doesn't list it here, he is an engineer in addition to being a game designer. But he doesn't list it because he wants game design jobs, right? So you should just be showing off the games you contributed to and talk about how you contributed to them. And then somebody asked about like technical demos. You can definitely include some of those. Just remember that a recruiter is going to care about your finished titles more than they're going to care about your technical demos. I kind of like how Surya has this game jam section. I could imagine that you copy his formula, his layout, where you have your released games. And then once you come down here, this says like tech demos, and it's got a bunch of cool stuff in here of you making like flocking behavior or whatever else you've done. All right. Static page, single file. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Thought that was a question again. Okay. It is 8:30. We've gotten through most of the questions. I'll answer these last, looks like two. So Pixojoy says, any other recommended advisors? You mentioned to get multiple opinions. Yeah, there are plenty of other ones out there. So I like kind of happened to accidentally show off this dude. I really like Tyvik. I tend to be eternally optimistic. He tends to be kind of the opposite. He'll be very honest with you if he thinks your portfolio sucks, but that's kind of valuable in its own way. So Tyvik is a great resource. We also mentioned Amir already. Amir is a great resource. He doesn't usually do portfolio reviews, but he does drop lots of great content. I also love Justin Williams, who I mentioned earlier. Actually, I maybe could have mentioned this sooner. In our Discord tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Justin Williams, top gaming industry voice and senior recruiter at Blizzard, is going to come in for an hour to talk about what he believes is important to have on a portfolio. We are actually running a game jam right now. Can I easily find this? IGA Portfolio Jam. Nice. That was a lot easier than I expected. We're actually running a game jam right now where instead of building a game, you are building your portfolio. And we have 4 events that are happening within that jam. There was the kickoff that happened last night. Tonight, they're teaching people how to make Flappy Bird so that you can add something to your jam. Tomorrow, Justin Williams is coming in. And then on Friday, we're doing a portfolio peer review. All of that is happening inside of our Discord. So if you're interested in any of that, here, I'll give you the join link one last time. You can come join on the Discord and come by tomorrow at 4 p.m. for Justin and Sunday at, I think it's 5 p.m. for the peer review. But those are some of the voices that I think you should follow and that also have fantastic perspectives on making a good portfolio. Okay. I think that's all the questions. Okay. Would they respond to you? I feel like I'd be bothering them. Lufin, me and you are having some problems tonight. Feels like I'd be bothering them. Here, do this for me. Everybody who feels like that. Everybody who feels like that, get yourself a piece of paper. And I want you to write on the piece of paper. Do this with me. I'm not lying. All of you who feel nervous about reaching out to strangers on the internet, I want you to get a piece of paper right now. I want you to put it on the table, and I want you to write down, they will be bothered by me. Okay? Everybody do this. Everybody do this who is nervous about reaching out to strangers online. I want you to write down on a piece of paper, get a piece of paper, and then write down on this piece of paper, they will be bothered by me. Huh? Everybody's done this? Okay. Now, very delicately, I want you to place 2 hands on the top of this piece of paper, and then I want you to rip it into pieces because that's ridiculous and a super unvaluable thing and mindset. That is useless. It will not help you in the slightest for the rest of your life. Being able to make connections with strangers is valuable in about 10 million different ways. So, Lufin, I have a secret to tell you. Yes, some of them will be bothered by you, but others won't be and will be excited to talk to you, and those are the ones that you actually care about. The ones who are bothered by you will not respond. Problem solved. The ones who are not bothered by you will have a wonderful conversation with you. You will get to know people in the industry. You will learn, and eventually, possibly, you will land a job. So I totally get it. And it's a balance to be had. You don't want to go so far past the mark where you're super scammy and annoying. I get that. You don't want to get kicked off of LinkedIn. So don't message too many people each day. Definitely, my rule of thumb is if I don't hear back from them after 2 messages, I never message them again. I'll message once and I'll say hi. And then if I really want to talk to them, after a week or 2, I'll say polite ping. That's actually like literally what I write. Hey, polite ping. Was wondering if you saw the last message. And then if I don't hear from them again, that's it. That way I know I'm never spamming them too much. If they don't want to respond, that's okay. But the thing is, actually, for that matter, Victor Blanc, art director at Minecraft, who is a professor for IGA level 3 and is the guy who got me my last job, is the whole reason I have a job right now. Victor, I met on LinkedIn by reaching out to him randomly. And I said, hey, I have this school that needs teachers. You want to talk about it? And he said, yes. And then we talked. So you never know. Ask for advice, be kind, be patient, be extremely grateful when they do give you your time, but please don't stop yourself from potentially getting the benefits of strangers online. It takes one person, a single victor, to respond to you to get that job, right? Okay. I got a little into that one, but it's because I hear that all the time and it just doesn't help you. It is a completely unhelpful mindset. So tear it up and get it out of your life. All right. So we are now at the end of the event. I am now going to do one last thing with all of you. Oh, dang. Here, I have to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. And then I will bring it right back. Don't worry. Don't panic. Nobody panic. All right. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to do with you is completely optional. We have the Indie Game Academy. Everybody's panicking. Damn it. I said don't panic. We talked about this. The Indie Game Academy has a number of programs that they run. Most of them are totally for free. So if you go to our Discord, you'll see we've got a bunch of events like all the time, and they're totally free. We do have a couple of paid programs, including our IGA Level 3 program, which starts next month. In IGA Level 3, you get sorted into a multidisciplinary team. You then work with that team over the course of 4 months to release a fully published, monetized game to a store of your choice. And you do that under the guidance of 7 industry professionals. So for the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to talk about this program for anybody who might be interested in joining. The applications for this program actually already closed, but because we had already scheduled this call, we decided to allow y'all to apply if you wish tonight. If this sounds interesting to you, hang out and we will talk about it for 10 minutes. If it doesn't sound interesting to you, that's totally fine. I am grateful that you've been here tonight. It's been a lot of fun talking about portfolios. Hopefully you got something good out of it. Come hang out with us on the Discord, and thank you so much to all of you for your time. Hell yeah, Tyler, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Tropic. Thank you, Io. I have a personal quest of helping 10,000 people build video games. So every person in this room, thank you for being here and listening and trusting me. Thank you to all of you. Okay, hell yeah. Aw, so much gratitude. Thank you. Hell yeah. I love this stuff. I love talking about video games. Okay, so I'm going to talk about IGA 3 for about 10 minutes before I actually take off for anybody who wants to listen. So IGA Level 3 is our biggest program. It's our most beloved program. It's actually the one that we started out with before we turned into what we are now. This is the very first thing we ever ran, and so we have spent the most time polishing it and making it awesome. It is a 4-month-long boot camp in which you get sorted into a multidisciplinary team. So you'll have an engineer, you'll have an artist, you'll have a designer, etc. It changes a little bit depending on who applies, but for the most part, you're going to have a team of 4 to 5 people who all do something a little bit different. You're going to come up with an original video game together. Then you're going to publish that game to a store of your choice. It is a paid program, Blue. You are going to publish this game to a store of your choice. You are going to monetize that game as well. And you'll do this all under the guidance of 7 industry professionals. Victor Blanc and Justin Williams are 2 of those people. I'm going to tell you about the rest of them in a second. So essentially, this is a chance for you to run your own indie studio. You're not literally starting a business or anything like that. You're not legally starting a business, but you are effectively running your own studio. That is what we are trying to emulate. We have that quote from Jesse Shelley I already mentioned. Your first 10 games are going to suck, so you might as well get them out of the way. This is a great opportunity for you to build a pretty sizable game. All right, I want to hear from the audience. What is a game? Because I know you all have a dozen of these. What is a game you have always wanted to make? What is a game that you have always wanted to make? A roguelike, says Crackzone. Nice. I've always wanted to take Chrono Trigger, my favorite role-playing game of all time, and then Harvest Moon, my favorite wholesome game of all time, and just yeah, that's what I want to make. I don't know when I will because I've got too much stuff in my life, but I would love that. All right, we got Unity. to build some stuff. Point and click adventure, awesome. Cozy witching farmy, that sounds like exactly my shiz. Zella, let's get together and build a game like right now. Something like Quake 3 or Age of Empires, very different games, but both awesome. Cartoony comedic Souls like, those all sound so good, you probably won't build them in our program. Yet, you probably won't build them yet. The reality is 4 months is an extremely short time box. That is the biggest one that we run, but it's still pretty small. So we're going to be working with you to basically reduce your big dreams into something that is manageable to finish in 4 months. I am extremely proud to say that 100%, literally every student team that we've had come through our program has finished and published their game. We have never had somebody fail to do so. And part of the reason that that number is so high is because we will mercilessly slash your scope if we have to. If you want to build, some massive MMORPG, great, very excited for you. Let's talk about how we can make that more realistic for a 4-month time box. So a couple of the games that did come out of the program, some of my favorites, I'm going to show you 3. The first one here is Hyper Bimbo Beats. This was built by Team Swashbucklers in the last cohort, and they actually won the pitch contest. At the end of level 3, you will finish, after publishing your game, after monetizing it, you will finish by pitching your game to a live audience of publishers and press. You will get the opportunity to pitch your game to publishers at the end of this program. So Hyper Bimbo Beats won the pitch contest. The judges decided that this was the best game of the cohort. They also managed to get onto the App Store as a top 10 rhythm game. They stayed in the top 10 rhythm games for about a week. This is this absolutely insane mobile game where you play as a trans superstar who turns toxic masculinity into femboys. Incredible concept. All right. The next game is what a sentence. I know. I never expected to say it, but man, I'm sure was pleased. The next game that I'd like to feature here from our students is Meteor Down. This is a deck building roguelike where your cards act as characters in a turn-based strategy game. So you play a card, that character appears on the grid, and you can actually move them around the grid like a turn-based strategy game. I am addicted to this video game. I absolutely love Slay the Spire and other sort of deep thought turn-based games. And I have played probably like 20 hours of their demo, let alone the full game. They recently got accepted into Steam Next Fest. They're showing off their demo in Steam Next Fest. And just ultimately, they made something really wonderful. And the last game I'm going to show off for a very particular reason. This is for all those narrative people out there. This is Keep It Together. It is a satirical narrative multi-choice game where you are an engineer on a space station just trying to stop the thing from exploding in your last 2 weeks before retiring. The reason I show off this game is because it is the most ambitious thing we've ever had come through the program. It has 12,000 unique lines of dialogue. We tried to stop them. They said no and kept adding dialogue. And, they managed to get it done. So I guess that's good. 12,000 lines of dialogue in Keep It Together. 12,000, Alexander. Do you need me to say that again? All right. So in IGA Level 3, you'll move through what we call the Game Dev 5, which are just 5 typical milestones. You'll move through formation, where you build your team and establish some rules with your team. You'll go into pre-production, where you prototype your game, into alpha, and then beta, and then release. IGA 3 is starting next week, which is why the applications are technically closed. But if anybody wants to, you can apply tonight. We have not quite finished reviewing all the applications. It starts next week on Tuesday. Classes are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They are 2 hours each, so you're getting 2 2-hour classes every week for 4 months. There's also a 2-hour office hour every week for whenever you need help with anything. It goes from October 24th to February 22nd. The first milestone is going to be formation, where you get sorted into your ancient magical wizarding house. Our 4 ancient magical wizarding houses are House Cleric, House Warrior, House Ranger, and House Rogue. Leave in the chat which of those 4 feels right for you. Oh, tonight. If you apply within the next 24 hours, Lufin, you can be considered. We are finishing applications, literally stopping looking at them around dinner time tomorrow. So as long as you get it in within the next, we'll say 18 hours, you can still be considered. So leave in the chat which house is for you. We made these because it's fun. That's the only reason we have these. They're a lot of fun. And each cohort, we actually literally compete for the House Cup. I'll even show it off for 1 second. So in our Discord, there's a channel called the House Cup, which is a live tracker of where House Cup points are going. You can earn House Cup points in various ways, but of course, it'll happen in class a lot. And as of right now, Cleric is actually like dominating. They're supposed to be like the friendly, like cute house, but they're just crushing it. And then Warrior and Ranger are just trying to keep up, and Rogue is close behind, waiting for a backstab, maybe. Anyway, I love that part of it. Let me get back into the room. Right. There we go. Okay. Once you finish with your formation, you'll move into pre-production, where you prototype the game, decide which game you're actually building, and then choose your game at the end of the month. You'll then move into alpha, where you build a representative version of the game that's probably missing features, but it is playable. You'll then have your first public showcase, where you're showing off your finished alpha and getting actual playtest data, and hopefully starting to collect an audience for your game as well. Then you'll move into beta, where you build a feature complete version of your game. You'll start beta testing with real people. You'll have another public showcase, and then you'll finish with launch. You'll actually release your game to a store of your choice. Generally, that is the App Store, the Google Play Store, or the Steam Store, but we've had people release to other places as well. And the very last thing you do in the cohort is our coveted pitch night. We do that twice a year. It is a beloved event. We often have well over 100 people show up live, and then more than that watch the recordings and the streams. And we have 4 to 5 publishers from the industry stop by as our judges. So it is a pretty significant event. That's how we wrap up the cohort. So this is Andy Lee. Andy Lee is one of our success stories. Andy is a senior QA analyst at Zynga. And he says, I'm very excited that I recently got a test engineering job at a company making VR concert experiences. During my interviews, I was questioned more than once about my current endeavor with the Indie Game Academy and doing Unity programming in a group project. I believe it directly impacted me getting the job. Gotta love Andy. All right, so let's talk about the professors. Just about done here. Our professors for this cohort of level 3 are as follows. Victor Blanc, art director at Mojang, working on Minecraft Dungeons, is going to be coming in to tell you how to make your indie game visually compelling, interesting, and exciting. Karina Diaz, marketing director and community builder at Mighty Yell, is going to be giving you insights into how you actually attract an audience for your game. Athena Peters, co-founder and CEO at Rainbow Unicorn Games, is going to be teaching you how to do project management, how to keep your project moving and on task. Tony Sharma, creative director at Duel Masters. I don't know if that registered for you. He runs all of Duel Masters at Wizards of the Coast, same people who make Magic the Gathering. He is going to be coming in to teach you about game design, how you make your game compelling, interesting, and fun to play. Next we have, he actually is though, I love Tony. Next we have Nikki Silver, narrative designer at Telltale. They will be coming in to teach us about narrative design and storytelling in your game. Next we have Justin Williams, senior recruiter at Blizzard. Justin is going to be teaching you about basically next steps. This is actually the first time we're doing this. We're spending a full week trying to set you up with everything you need to break into the industry after the program. And then last and best of all, me. Hello. I will also be teaching this cohort. I'm a game designer currently at Paradox Interactive and the founder of this school. I'll be largely acting as kind of your host. So I'll be teaching those lessons in between the other professors and guiding you and cheering you on. Now, level 3 has a couple of changes in this cohort that are different from every other time we've run this. We always iterate. We always try to make our program better every single cohort. The first change is that it's even 4 months long. It used to be 3 months long. We're now making it 4 months so that we have a nice even split between pre-production, alpha, beta, and release. Each team will now have a dedicated advisor from one of the professors. So one of these professors will be your advisor on your team and will meet with you on a small scale basis. So just your team and this person will be meeting with you multiple times throughout the cohort. That's the first time we've ever done that. We're paying our professors twice as much as we ever have before. We have heavier requirements to join the program. You must have a released game, at least online, to join IGA level 3. If you're really excited to apply and you don't have that, you could spend this weekend getting a game up online and we can still count you. Prefects are chosen ahead of time. Prefects are our team leads, and we're also training our prefects so that your team leads will be awesome. And we're actually going to start with the game jam. The very beginning of the cohort is going to be you working with your team. Jam entries do count as long as it's a fully playable game and it's up online or on a store, preferably on a store, but as long as it's online, it counts. And yes, we're going to start with the game jam. After the program, we also have career support. We have an interview hotline. That's probably my favorite. If you ever have an interview coming up, we're going to work with you to try to get you that job. And 50% of all programs from then on out are 50% off. That was very confusing. Every program at IGA, you get half off forever after graduating IGA 3. All right, so I'm going to tell you the actual pricing structure and how scholarships work. Does anybody have questions about how the program works before that? When is the next time? Yes, so we run this twice a year, usually once right now around the end of the year, and then the next one will be June or July. It is not yet scheduled, but June or July will be the next one. Okay, so that means you're going to receive 32 live classes, 2 hours each, 16 live office hours, 2 hours each, an indie team of 4 to 5, access to 7 veteran professors, a dedicated team advisor, a game dev TA, a published monetized game of your own design, the chance to pitch your game to 4 to 5 actual publishers, a community of magical, wonderful wizards, and just a generally freaking good time. Something I like to show now and then is that class takes place in an actual virtual castle. If you've used Gather before, it's awesome. It's a video calling service where you actually have a character that walks around, and this is our castle. You will literally take class here with all of your fellow students and professors. This is our game room. Yeah, we love doing it. Each of the, actually, here's a fun fact for you. Each of the houses, those 4 houses, has their own common room that can be found around the castle. Don't tell Ranger that I showed you, but Ranger's is hidden in this secret island. And then there's this special rock. And then boom, here's Ranger's classroom, or Ranger's common room. All right, so it's just a lot of fun. One of the things we focus on. So IGA level 3 is $3,400 at its ticket price. That is the cap. It never costs more than that. It actually only costs less than that. There's a couple different ways that you can bring the price down. $3,400 for 4 months of live classes, 2 live classes a week, and those 7 crazy professors. You'll first of all, you can get 10% off if you do a one-time payment, because that just makes our lives easier. It's $3,400 if you do a payment plan, which means you're either paying over 4 months or you're paying over 6 months. There's 2 different payment plans available. And then there are scholarships available as well. The scholarships, the higher level scholarships, obviously there's more people competing for them, so we can give out fewer of them. We try to ride the line between being able to afford to run this program, paying our professors and the other people who help out, while still making it as affordable as possible, and those people who want to join, giving them the opportunity to join. So scholarships go as low as $800 for the entire program, but that's there's the fewest of those. And then there are a couple of other levels of scholarships, which the application will cover for you. So this is the last link I'll send you for anybody who wants to join the program. Here is the link. It'll take about 15 minutes to fill out. If you do want to join, we are reviewing our last set of applications literally right now. I'm not trying to pressure you. That's just like when this event happened to fall. So if you do want to apply, you'll need to apply within probably the next, like 10 to 15 hours. But as long as you do apply within the next 10 to 15 hours, we'll get you in. We'll consider you and we'll look at your application. It's non-binding. So if you might want to join, not entirely sure, apply and see what happens. You never know. But I have a gift for you, because I gotta do at least a little bit of the salesy thing. If you do apply now and you use the code, oh damn it, I forgot to update this. It is Remote Games Jobs FTW. If you apply now and use the code Remote Game Jobs FTW, that means, one, we know that you came from this wonderful community, but also we'll actually immediately cut off 20% for you. So we do this for people who stay through some of our live classes, basically because it's so important to us that we have a really strong cultural fit. So now that you've been through this event with us, we know a little bit better that you're the right kind of person. And the fact that you're still here, about half of the people have already left. The fact that you're still here sitting through this means that you are a better quality student for who we're looking for. So we're willing to cut down the price for you. So if you apply within the next couple of hours and use that code, we will immediately cut off 20%. You'll pay less than $3,000. And that is cumulative with scholarships, by the way. So if you got a scholarship, it would be that price minus 20%. Okay, that's now everything. Does anybody have any questions about the program? Or if you still have stuff about portfolios, you can ask about that too. Yes, the code is Remote Game Jobs FTW for the win, baby. I'm really hoping that we form a more like lasting relationship with y'all. I would love to come in and do more events for you. We'll throw some of our professors in here now and then. Maybe we can tempt Justin Williams to come in here. I don't know. He's a busy dude, but we'll try. We'll try for you. All right. Any other questions about the program, about scholarships, about portfolios, anything else we've talked about? Did I? Where's the typo? Where? Thank you very much, Crackzone. Games? What? Am I crazy? Huh? I don't know. I'm just ignoring y'all now. Oh, I see, I see. That's well, it'll actually be fine. We'll know what you mean either way. I will need to go and check though. Thank you for calling that to my attention. We may have written it the wrong way. But we'll know what you mean either way. But do this one because that's the correct one. My bad, my bad. Okay. Does a published game as free to play count? Yes, definitely. As long as it is a fully complete game that is released somewhere, like I said, at least online, that counts. It doesn't need to be a monetized game to count. We actually expect most of you haven't released a monetized game yet, which is part of the utility that we're offering here. You're actually going to get to monetize your game. Too bad I'm unemployed and broke. Well, Scrapper, there are scholarships, there are payment plans. We try to make it available to everybody. If you're the right kind of person, who's like really excited to join, if money is the only thing stopping you, we'll try to figure out some way to get you into the program. So if you're really excited, I'd recommend applying and see what happens in the as the scholarships get doled out. How are we receiving an APK? How about reviewing an APK? What? Like, does that count as a game? Is that what you're asking? Where does one apply for the scholarships? It's in the application. You'll get there. And 90% scholarship. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're asking, Gnome. How about free? Can't do free. Sorry. We have people to pay, and also we actually used to offer a free level to just 1 or 2 people every cohort. And I shit you not, every time we did that, that person either disappeared or didn't really like show up. And I think that that's a very simple human psychology. If you aren't investing at least a little bit, it doesn't feel real. You don't feel as connected to the program. My game is built for, an APK file. Yeah, that's fine. If you can get it up on Google Play, I recommend you do, because that's going to help your portfolio regardless of this application process. But an APK file would be fine. There's a link in there, and you can explain what you're talking about. Just put it somewhere that we can download it so we can see it and try it. I was thinking APK like actual library. I didn't know what the hell you were asking. Yeah. You should just put it up on Google Play. They accept a lot. Are we allowed to apply under an alias? No. Please use your actual name. Otherwise, it's too confusing. I don't think Steam distributes mobile games. It does not. Any other questions? Man, this was a long one. We started at 6:30. Whew. Well, shoot. Y'all are awesome for staying a full 2.5 hours. That's amazing. I'm going to pass out. Woke up at 4 a.m. for this. Crackzone MVP. Let me give you a standing ovation. Hold on. Wow. Proud of you. Good job, dude. That's awesome, man. I'm grateful. All right. Haven't gone to bed yet. All right. So I think this is going to wrap it up. I'm going to drop all the links one more time, and then let me see where it makes the most sense. Am I allowed to write in the events channel? I am. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to wait for the recording to do the shit process. I'm gonna have to wait for the recording to process. Once the recording processes, could be tonight. If it takes too long tonight, it'll have to be tomorrow. I will drop all of the links into the event channel. So you can get access to the slides, get access to the recording, anything else you want. So that'll all be there in a bit. You can check that tonight or tomorrow, depending on if you are still awake. I'll put all the links in the chat one more time that are pertinent. We would love to have you apply to IGA 3 if it sounds right to you. No pressure, of course. We'd love to have you come and join our Discord community if it sounds right to you. We have a ridiculous number of free events literally all the time. I am not exaggerating when I say we have between 4 and 12 free events that we host for our community every month. So there's often 1 to 3 events every week. Some of them are like teaching you how to make games. Some of them are the podcast, for instance, is in there live every week where we're interviewing cool people. So join the Discord if it sounds right for you. Here is example portfolio number 1 and example portfolio number 2. And here is the deck one more time. And yeah, I think that's it. I guess here is my, if anybody wants to follow me on LinkedIn, you can do that here too. All right, I think that's everything. Oh God, don't look at my emails. Some dark stuff in there. Any last questions? Any last things to say? Discord server question. Will be pinged for future events with self-assigned roles. Yes, but assign any roles that make sense to you. We'll ping those roles as they make sense. First, I hear of you in IGA. Literally saw a LinkedIn notification for this like 2 hours ago. Nice. Heck yeah. Thank you, Tyler. I'm loving your energy. Thank you also for being honest with me. That was a great question that you asked earlier about basically like racial representation on your portfolio. I really appreciate people who are just kind and good and choose to be kind and good. It doesn't take that much extra effort, but it really is how I would hope the whole world freaking works. All right. Absolutely. Discord has an event role. Yeah, we will. No, I think we do, don't we? I don't know. Jess is our community manager. Jess, thank you for being here and for watching the whole time. So Jess probably can answer some of those questions better than I can. All right. I'm going to call that it then. I'm going to stop recording here. Goodbye, recording.